urged General George Meade to attack. But Meade's men were just as weary as Lee's. He rested his troops. Lincoln picked up his quill and wrote a letter in which he confessed he was distressed immeasurably at Meade's reluctance to pursue Lee. On the envelope are these words in the president's handwriting: "To General Meade, never sent or signed." And indeed, it never was. Long before Lincoln, another great leader grasped the importance of reining in our emotions. Anger, no matter how justified, is a dangerously powerful force. "Do you see someone who speaks in haste?" King Solomon asked in Proverbs 29. "There is more hope for a fool than for them." Solomon knew that by justice a king gives a country stability. He also understood that fools give full vent to their rage, but the wise bring calm in the end. And in the end, not sending that letter prevented Lincoln from demoralizing his top general, helped win a necessary war, and contributed to the healing of a nation. We do well to learn from examples like his of wise restraint. Today's encouragement was provided by Our Daily Bread Ministries,
helping you take the next step in your walk with Christ. And home of Mornings with Brian. This is Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, and everywhere with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
European leaders are scheduled to host an emergency summit in Paris focusing on Russia's ongoing war against Ukraine. It's 6 o'clock. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said European leaders will meet today to discuss the continent's increasingly strained relationship with the U.S. The news comes after President Trump spoke with Russian President Putin about negotiating an end to the war. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has indicated Ukraine should cede all territory that was invaded by the Russian army and that the U.S. would be opposed to Ukraine joining NATO. With the cold temperatures this week, the city of Cleveland is providing 4 recreation centers to serve as warming centers. The Michael Zone Rec Center on Lorraine Avenue, the Lonnie Burton Rec Center on East 46th Street, the Collinwood Rec Center on Lakeshore Boulevard, and the Zelma George Rec Center on Martin Luther King Boulevard will all be available for those needing to escape the cold. And it is President's Day today. Banks and post offices are closed, along with all federal, county, state, and city of Cleveland offices. Greater Cleveland RTA is running on its usual schedule, and the Akron Zoo is celebrating President's Day by offering free admissions to visitors. In sports, Team Shaq took down Team Chuck 41-25 to win the 2025 NBA All-Star Game. And 3 countries are still vying for a spot in the Four Nations hockey face-off final. The United States clinched a berth in Thursday's championship game with a 3-1 win over Canada on Saturday. That leaves Canada, Norway, and Sweden all trying to get in to the finals. Here is your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. A winter weather advisory remains in effect until 7 a.m. this morning. We'll see cloudy skies, a slight chance of snow showers this morning, patchy blowing snow this afternoon. It is going to be breezy with high temperatures just around 18 degrees, but the wind chill value makes it feel like 4 below. At last check, light snow 21 degrees in Cleveland, Akron and Canton flurries and 19. Ashtabula, just cloudy skies and the temperature 21 degrees.
It's time for your Moron Moment.
National Pancake Week takes place in the last week of February, and this year, of course, it's February 17 to the 23rd. Although pancakes are often branded as a breakfast food, they can actually be eaten at any time of the day. Pancakes and their variations are found in almost every culture. In some countries, pancakes resemble the French crepe, while in others, what the U.S. calls pancakes are known as flapjacks or crumpets. And that's your Moron Moment. And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 6:03. With Moody Radio News, I'm Ron Eastwood.
Broadcasting live from the Bob Devine Studio. It's Mornings with Brian. Want to join the conversation? Call or text now at 440-546-2255. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Chris Tomlin, and then me even just speaking to you right now is a miracle. I barely made it today.
Really?
I called Lauren, and she goes, fine over here.
I was doing just fine, scooted on through.
Driveway to driveway. You were from Cuyahoga Falls to Brecksville. It's like feeling good.
I was not worried. I didn't slip. I didn't slide. I was totally fine.
Yeah, my neighborhood was a little sketchy. Not bad, but just you don't go 35 or something. Well, I guess you wouldn't in my neighborhood anyway. But
Medina was fine.
Yeah, once you got on the main roads, yeah. There was places it was blown over, and then the highways were perfect.
Akron?
They don't like to plow my street in Akron, but once I got past my own street, everything was fine.
Wow. Thanks a lot. I feel like I'm being picked on by
I've always
the world.
I've always, whenever there's a big storm, you are Chicken Little. And I'm like, Brian, it's never as bad as you are worrying about.
And I usually...
But apparently by you it is.
It is.
Yeah. I didn't even expect this, really. I was kind of like, man, it'll be fine. It won't keep snowing all night. Yeah, it kept snowing all night. And then ODOT was like, yeah, 305, 282, 422. Do we even have those anymore? Are they there? I don't think so. They're not there. I was going 15 on one of the roads, barely like staying on the road. I should have turned around. But it's one of those where you're like, it's getting just a little better every mile. I'd be safer to keep going. So if you live way out in like Maine or wherever I live, Pennsylvania, whatever, just
take it slow.
Just stay home for the holiday. Stay home for it's a weird holiday, by the way, today. You guys, happy President's Day.
Thank you.
Happy President's Day. Didn't it start as George Washington's birthday? And then they're like, we'll do it for everybody.
Well, Washington and Lincoln both had birthdays really close here, within a week of each other. And the federal government says, well, we love taking any holiday we can.
We love Mondays off.
Yeah, let's move them both together and we'll make it a Monday holiday so we can have another long weekend. Because we're the federal government and you pay our salary.
Yeah. No, and it was one of those.
As long as they let me take it off, hey.
Well, we're here.
Right.
Well.
We're doing like a half day kind of. But no, it's one of those things where when Congress agrees, it's sort of miraculous. And they all loved the, quote, Uniform Monday Holiday Act.
Yes.
Yeah, everybody loves a Monday holiday.
Isn't that funny that they actually passed a bill? Like, hey, guys, George Washington's actual birthday, that doesn't matter. We need a Monday off, people.
The actual birthdays don't matter. It doesn't matter who it is. MLK?
The George Washington?
Doesn't matter.
Boo.
Put it on Monday.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll just forget his holiday. Let's just call it President's Day.
Right.
This is the day we celebrate Millard Fillmore. Everybody loves that guy.
Why not?
James A. Garfield, great guy. An Ohio guy.
Who's the one with the bathtub?
Oh, William Howard Taft.
Yeah, thank
Gotta
you.
love that guy.
He was an Ohio guy, too.
I didn't know that.
Taft.
Yeah, years ago when you could actually get a ticket to the White House when I was a little boy back in the olden days, we took a tour of the White House, and one of the things they love to tell you about is that William Howard Taft got stuck in a bathtub. It's their favorite. So they got a new bathtub for him.
Well, yeah.
And there's a picture of three men like sitting in it, like, hey, we got the new bathtub. Three grown men. He ended up becoming one of the most, what's the right word? One of the most loved and successful and honored Supreme Court justices.
After his presidency.
After his presidency.
Wow.
Yes. And he was much more successful in that role. Kind of like where Jimmy Carter was more successful after his presidency in many ways.
Yeah.
That was the same with William Howard Taft. And that is your history lesson for the day.
That's our President's Day fact.
I got a call from my daughter Grace yesterday.
Did you?
Wow. You were
Yeah.
expecting a letter, right? It was going to be the first point of contact?
Yeah, this is how it works. Apparently the company commander, the base commander, this is all made up words from me.
Yeah.
Well, the person in charge of all the people at the base sends a letter that says, here's how you write a letter to your significant other. They're not in a hurry to get that to you.
No, of course not.
And I understand that. They want the people to feel it that are learning how to readjust their life to the United States military.
Yeah, your child and you.
Yes. And I thought that she would not get a call yet. She started a week ago this past Friday. So she missed the first Sunday because, it was only like 3 days in. And then she called yesterday. And I'm not surprised. She's doing great.
Good. Happy.
I would not be doing great were I in her shoes, what she was describing they've been through. But she loves it. I'm like, okay. She's like,
Good
it's kind of
for her.
like summer camp, but they're just the counselors are really mean. I was like, really? You're calling it like summer camp? What kind of summer camp did we send you to? None, actually. So
Right. I'm glad she's liking it.
yeah,
I was curious because she's tough and yet she's feminine,
yes.
and only one of those can carry through in boot camp like that. And fortunately, it was a tough. When she's back at base, I'm sure she's feminine Grace once again. But
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, she was talking about the first 3 days, all they could eat is MREs, which are military rations. She said some of them were delicious, some of them were not edible, but you had 5 minutes, so you just slammed it down.
Yes.
She said, what did you say? There's like 30 women in her whatever.
Oh, good.
40 maybe. And of course, they got exactly 5 minutes to shower the first couple of days. And there's like 16 showers. So she's just mass chaos. But she was describing it like it was a great time. Isn't that wild? The coolest part, though, of interest is, okay, she went to church yesterday. And she was telling us all about how just the circumstances everybody finds themselves in make them very spiritually open. And this is how our friend Dave Safransky, I think, got saved at boot camp.
Yeah.
Because on Sundays, you have a choice. It's like, would you like to clean the barracks or go to church? And people are like, you know what? I think church sounds pretty good. She said there was a point yesterday where she was sitting down just kind of randomly in a crowd of people, and there were 3 groups around her all talking about spiritual things. And she said the pastor, chaplain, I don't know, whoever it was, probably chaplain, she described the message, and it sounded to me like a very ground level gospel type message that, no matter what you've done, the Lord will welcome you in.
Yes. Very good.
10 people went up at the end.
Wow.
Wow.
10 people went up. Isn't that wild? For like a call to salvation. And it wasn't a dramatic altar call. It was more, and she said she was weeping the whole service. There was a young woman she talked to who was like adamantly anti-spiritual things right before this. And she's an atheist. She's like, no, you can't prove any of this stuff. It's just a bunch of garbage. I think it was her bunkmate, maybe. I don't know. Who knows? And she said they were passing out Bibles. This woman went to church because, hello, better than cleaning.
Yeah.
Took one of the free Bibles because there's a ministry that makes sure every soldier that wants a Bible gets one. And she said the woman's been reading it like constantly.
Wow.
Isn't that the coolest thing ever?
Very good.
I just am so encouraged to hear about how much great ministry is happening in a boot camp. And I mean, yeah, maybe part of it is quote unquote not fair because people are so kind of vulnerable.
Yeah, they're facing their mortality. Yeah.
Right. But you know what? I don't care because people are honestly looking for something in those circumstances, especially, she said, when they have no access to anything. Anything that keeps you from the Lord is gone. It's just you. You have no things, nothing. So anyway, I'm glad that she's doing well, and I miss her. And now I know her company, her battalion, her regiment, and her platoon numbers and letters.
Wow, you did it.
So now I can write to her. And she wants that, which is also very exciting. All right, coming up in just a minute. Before we get to the break, though, thank you, everybody, for all you did the last couple of days. Lauren especially.
Yeah.
You're amazing, stepping in, doing 16 things at once. Usually it's 15.
That's okay. It's great.
So thank you very
Everyone
much.
deserves time off, so.
Oh, thank you. Coming up in a minute, I'll tell you about my time in Chicago, and then we're not too far away from talking about gambling. Ron's been he's been betting me how long it's going to take to get to this, and I think he's going to win.
Today, there is a disciple-making church planting movement that's taken root in 40 countries around the world. It's called the Timothy Initiative, and its mission is to see a healthy church planted in every village, everywhere. Since 2007, over 200,000 churches have been planted through the work of the Timothy Initiative, but there's more work to be done. Take your place in the Timothy Initiative. Go to ttiglobal.org.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
My debt problem started probably about 2016. I needed my life to change financially. I called Trinity and I ended up joining based on high credit card bills and high interest rate. And my counselor at Trinity has been great, and Trinity has been helping me to get on the right path of paying off these credit card bills, bringing down the interest rate. They have consolidated my bills into one low monthly payment. And now I am finally getting out of credit card debt. So I just want to say thank you, Trinity, for showing me a better and greater path.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-659-9838.
My name is Sharon, and soon I will be debt-free for keeps.
1-800-659-9838.
bringing Northeast Ohio and Western Pennsylvania closer to Christ one conversation at a time. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio, Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
.622 WCRF. Got to remind you that brace yourselves. Walk-Worthy Men's Conference is 1 week from Saturday.
Oh, my gosh.
1 week from Saturday, less than 2 weeks away. I double-checked this just to be sure I didn't sound like a silly person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually true. So, guys, I mean, last-minute Larry here.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
It is last minute now.
It totally is. And tickets are going quickly. We would love to see you there. Oh, look at that. Yeah, Lauren, there's a lot.
Yep. I know. It's great.
We can't tell you exactly how many at this moment, but she's looking at the numbers, and you better hurry. That's all I'm going to tell you, okay? Because I think it's going to sell out. Do you, Lauren?
I don't know.
She doesn't know. She
Not
won't
willing to
commit
say
to
that.
that.
Oh, yeah.
You want to bet?
No, because I want people to buy their tickets. I don't want them to say, "Oh, Brian said it's going to sell out, so I'm not going to buy tickets."
No, hurry. Yeah, just go get it so you're not the person that misses out. So text the word WALK to 440-546-2255. Text WALK to 440-546-2255. All right, so for those who don't know, I have 5 children. My oldest daughter, Grace, is 19, in boot camp in the Army. Her and I, a couple of years ago, did something in Chicago at Moody Bible Institute that used to be called Day One.
Yes.
And who knows when it changed to Experience Moody. So just like any college, if you want to visit Moody Bible Institute, get a tour, you can schedule it anytime, any day. Or once a month, I think starting in the spring or winter, they do this thing, Experience Moody. It's a whole day program. Now, when Grace and I went, it was nice. There was like hey, everybody, welcome. Here, let's go. Everyone go to this class. And here's some lunch. Bye. You should register here. It was an entirely different experience with my Sophia. I went with her this last weekend. And you guys probably, if you didn't recognize me, it's because I'm a very different person now that it's over. And I'll explain what I mean by that in just a minute. Like, you won't believe what I did. Okay.
I probably can believe.
No, this, I mean, I did some embarrassing things, but that's not surprising. But no,
I got a lot of pictures of Sophia from like peeked around the corner of you just watching her.
Yeah, it was just a wonderful experience. If you've ever thought about Moody Bible Institute, it is absolutely worth the drive from Cleveland and the hotel or whatever you decide to do. It just from start to finish, there was tons of people there, so many more than usual, or than the last time I went. Dr. Washington is, I believe, the Dean of Students.
Yep.
And he is one of the most incredible people on the planet.
He has so much energy.
Yeah, it loves
Which is
the
what
Lord.
you have to have as a Dean of Students.
And the students love him. There's no question about it. And
he does what he calls the Lucy booth, from Peanuts, or like 5 cents for psychiatric help or whatever.
Yeah.
He'll do those like once a month and just set up in the Commons, and students can come ask his advice.
Oh. And he even, so we went to chapel after we had this big welcome, and then a tour of the campus, and the tour was fantastic. And even though I've been everywhere, it was still wonderful. And the campus experienced a tragedy recently where there's a recent graduate at Moody Bible Institute. A young couple got married, had a child, and she died in childbirth.
Oh.
Absolutely tragic. And Dr. Washington went up in front of students, many of whom know her, and did a beautiful job of honoring her and pointing to Christ and being emotional. And a whole bunch of the faculty and administration are going to her funeral, or did this last weekend. And just watching him handle that in front of the students. And then Dr. Rosalie DesRoses, which she's been teaching for 40 years at Moody or something. She came up and did a message that was spectacular. Students were yelling at us. They kept yelling Day One, really weird.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, do you want to do it? You don't.
No, I'm not
it's so
going to
weird.
do it. Yeah, they just shout at you Day One.
Like, it's been
From
called
all around.
Experience Moody for just a couple of years now, but it used to be called Day One when you visit. And so all the students are like, Day One?
Did they have...
like yelling at you the whole time.
Did
We're
they
like,
have banners like hanging from the balcony that said Day One?
No.
Oh, okay.
But we were the focal point sitting in the center of
Yes.
Torrey Gray Auditorium, and there were randomly people would yell that. But the students were super nice. We had lunch. They separated students. You got to pick what class you wanted to go to.
That's cool.
They separated students and parents. We got
What
to
class
see a
did you
dorm.
pick?
So I didn't get to go to that class. I thought I was going to. Sophia picked pastoral care and counseling because she has some interest in counseling at the moment. And I was about to go with her. And they're like, all right, parents, come over here. Like, excuse me.
You don't get to go to class.
And they sat us down and did Q&A with parents. And there was, of course, lots of questions.
Well, yeah, that's good. Time for you guys.
Yeah. And it was...
A lot of parents are scared to send their kids to a big city like Chicago because the
Yes.
campus is right in downtown. So
But then they took us to visit a dorm, and it was the kind of throwback thing my daughter would love, which is back in the olden days, you really couldn't just, they didn't have co-ed floors like they have now.
Right.
So they took
at
us
Moody,
up.
there is not co-ed floors.
No.
You're talking about other colleges.
All other colleges
Oh, okay.
will do that.
There's not co-ed
I
floors.
I was a little shocked myself.
Yeah, no. Like, I mean, when I went my freshman year of college, I was in the honors dorm.
Of course.
And it was co-ed by room.
Try hard.
Like girls across the hall. Yeah, I was totally try hard. Not at Moody, in a really sweet way. We went up to the girls' floor because our tour guide was a couple of women. And when they get off the elevator, they have to yell, Man on the floor.
We had to do that too.
Oh, you did?
Yes, if I had my brother or male family member come and have to bring me something, you have to just shout through the whole hallway. Guy on the floor.
And they had a giant sign.
When you get off the elevator.
They put in the hallway, red, large letters, man on the floor.
We also had, if there were going to be a bunch of guys or maintenance or something, they had this light they would turn on that would flash just on. It was so annoying, letting you know that there were men up there.
Did you like the principle of it?
The light was annoying, and I couldn't bring my grandpa up in the middle of the day without feeling like I was bringing in contraband.
Yeah, well, the comparison point would be the awkwardness in a state school or like a public university where your roommate has a boyfriend and he's there all the time, even when you come out of the shower and stuff. Mm-hmm. That's awkward. That's not going to happen at Moody Bible Institute, for goodness sakes. So I just would. It was a spectacular experience. I hardly knew anybody anymore. It's been so long since I worked there, but I did see Professor Cisco Cotto, who's on the show pretty frequently. He and I had a wonderful time over lunch, and I recommend you check it out. They have another Experience Moody next month, and I believe there's one in April as well. Mm-hmm. Go to moody.edu to get signed up, moody.edu. And I would have emphasized this more. They didn't. But let me tell you, parents, tuition is a full scholarship for all undergrad students on the Chicago campus. So here's how I would say it. You don't pay anything for tuition. Mm-hmm. They get mad at me when I say that. Oh, Brian, somebody paid something. Yes, donors paid for that. We have donors since D.L. Moody started the organization. Donors cover the cost of tuition. So for you, it's free. They get really mad at me when I say that because everybody actually gets a tuition scholarship. But I think that's confusing. You pay nothing for tuition. You pay nothing. You pay room and board, that's it. Nowhere in America is that a thing that happens, generally speaking.
We recently had talked about how a few schools are implementing some version of that, like maybe part of your first year will be tuition free or, certain classes. But Moody, all tuition, all the time you're there, free. If you go to the campus, you're there.
And I talked to a family from California that was there. And I was like, what are you doing here?
Came all the way here. Mm-hmm.
And here's what they said. Their daughter wants to go on the mission field. And they looked around. And as they discovered, of course, missions organizations will not let you go in the mission field until your college debt is paid off, all your debt.
Mm-hmm.
Which could take decades.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you go to a private Christian college.
Yes.
So they looked around and they were essentially like, this is pretty much it.
Right.
And this is where you won't recognize me. Okay, so Sophia immediately connects with three young women, one of them from the Chicago suburbs, one from Maryland, one from California, Sacramento area. And we finish up some of the day, and the girls are like, Sophia, you should come with us to dinner tonight. And how do I do with strangers normally?
Awkward. Well.
Yeah, I said, Sophia, we'll do whatever you want. It's your weekend. She was like, I don't know. We're both a little high anxiety, and so one of the moms, she said, you're welcome to join us. I made reservations for 8 because I knew we'd meet somebody.
Oh, wow.
And we're standing there. What would you do, Lauren?
Do what? When?
Would you accept an invitation from total strangers to dinner?
Yes.
I normally don't do this, but I was like, this is my girl, my little sweet pea. We're doing this. We went, and it was fabulous.
Aw.
Good.
I had fun with strangers. It was a God thing is what it was, because my daughter got to further connect with some young women who were just like her in that they love Jesus. And these parents were just, the world's a crazy place, and meeting other believers with a similar heart for the gospel is just wonderful. It makes it easy to connect.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a lot of craziness in the church these days. Randomly finding a group of 6 adults that are not part of that craziness was pretty awesome. And then when we were done with dinner, we hung out some more.
Wow.
You don't even believe it. You don't even believe it.
I don't believe that face you're making.
We went back to my hotel and hung out in the lobby. Everybody.
That's great.
Me.
I got you.
I'm proud of
popular.
you.
I like strangers now.
Yes, just
not
those
really.
specific ones.
Yep, those.
Did you go get pizza?
They had reservations at Hard Rock.
Oh, very fun.
Whoa.
Is it?
Yeah.
Nobody went there for Valentine's Day is what I can tell you. They made reservations. They didn't need to.
No.
It's not a place the ladies like, apparently.
It's a cool place. I don't think I've ever eaten there. I've just walked around.
It was Valentine's Day. I went in. There was maybe another table downtown Chicago with people at it. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, normally you got to like book like 5 months in advance.
And then Sophia's like, I'll take the half rack of ribs. It's like, okay. And I'll get a sandwich. Thank you.
You would have gotten a sandwich even if she got a
Regardless.
sandwich. So
That's true.
you always get a chicken sandwich.
But did she eat all the half rack of ribs?
She did. It's my girl.
Wow.
I didn't just get a chicken sandwich,
Oh,
Lauren.
sorry, fries.
It was a buffalo chicken sandwich. Very different than what you thought.
Yes, right.
I'm not that predictable. I could have gotten
Yes,
a
you are.
burger. Why didn't you think I got a burger? Go ahead.
I don't know, but I knew it was one of the two, a burger or a chicken sandwich.
I don't want to be that predictable. Okay.
And
6:30.
don't get chicken sandwiches.
Go to moody.edu, moody.edu. Check out Experience Moody. I highly recommend it. Totally worth the time. All right, coming up in just a minute, we're going to talk a little gambling, people.
I'm Jamie Buxton, and this is Pause for Prayer. I don't want to start off with a New Year cliche, but I have in fact been dieting as a new beginning this year. The program I'm using not only has me count calories and protein, but it also forces me to look at the kind of food I'm eating and the colors that they are. So instead of just eating less, it pushes me to eat a variety of foods and colors. This has not only made me eat better, but has also made me look at how I spend my day and what I digest in other ways. Let's pause for prayer. Precious Jesus, how I long to be more like you, yet I get sucked into the mindless scrolling of social media or the tabloid gossip communication. I can quote ridiculous song lyrics and give updates on celebrities, but I somehow still manage to miss my time spent with you. Help me, Father, to take seriously the warning in Mark chapter 4. Consider carefully what you hear, he continued. With the measure you use it, it will be measured to you, and even more. And help me to be like Job, who said he had made a covenant with his eyes. Help me desire only good things, not just for eating, but for all of the ways that I consume each day, with what I watch, with what I listen to, and how I spend my time. Like the old adage says, the eyes are a window to the soul. Jesus, make me aware of what I put into my heart and mind through my eyes. Protect my heart from the junk I put in it, and give me motivation to make the changes necessary to do so. God, I pray you'll help me fill my time with more of you. Father God, help me to desire you and your word more than anything else. In your precious name I pray. Amen.
Moody Radio is thankful for listeners and support from businesses like Duma Meats and Farm Market. Duma Meats and Farm Market supporting Moody Radio in Cleveland and surrounding areas. More information about Duma Meats and Farm Market is at dumameats.com.
Moody Radio is on the air thanks to the support of listeners and Hawkins Sales. They've been serving our region's electrical industry for over 40 years. More information about Hawkins Sales is at hawkinssales.com.
Parents, youth pastors, are you looking for a life-changing opportunity for your teens this summer? The Experience Jesus Conference, June 23rd through 28th at Moody Bible Institute in Chicago, isn't just another event. It's a 5-day experience where high school students learn to share their faith on the streets of Chicago.
XJ grounded my faith and inspired me to share the gospel.
Register now at moodyconferences.com/XJ. Early bird rates end April 30th.
They say family knows you best. Here's Brian's older brother with a message for you.
Does it seem like your son or daughter will just not stop talking? My little brother is proof that not all hope is lost.
It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Is it gambling?
Okay.
Are you ready to play?
Yes.
All right, Ron, the band, I think, is ready for us too, right?
We can only hear it in your studio through the glass, Ron.
There we go. All right. Today's edition of Is It Gambling? All right, you just have to give me a yes or no.
Okay.
Bingo in the church basement.
No?
Yes. It's a game of chance.
Daria?
Her mic's not on. I say no because there's no, like, I'm putting down money to get something. Like, I'm not wagering something.
Well, I mean, there is, like, at the front of the room, there's the prize table. And if you holler bingo.
Yeah, but I'm not giving my own money in it.
Well, you gotta buy $1 for a card.
Oh.
This real church bingo, sister.
Okay.
This is, like, is it $1 a card usually or $2 or something? It's not much.
I don't know, but it is a fundraiser, so yeah.
Yeah, so it's fundraiser. It's for the youth group,
Okay.
And there's a prize table. And if you holler bingo, you get to go up there and take a prize. I'm not saying your answer was wrong. I'm just asking, is it gambling?
And then I guess maybe. I don't know.
Daria?
I think technically.
But she's ready to buy a card.
I mean, I don't think I've ever played bingo.
You love bingo.
Sarah and I have talked about this, how old we're getting. We're thinking about, like, that actually doesn't sound that bad. It sounds kind of fun.
Yeah, it sounds kind of fun.
Okay, next one. The church
You're not
raffle.
gonna tell us the answer?
Well, I don't have the answer.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
It's a quiz.
Oh, yeah, quizzes have answers. Hello, teacher. Hello.
No, this is a poll.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. It's a poll, not a quiz.
Okay. Well, I mean, you went to Moody. What does the Bible say about bingo again?
It doesn't.
Oh, it doesn't.
About bingo. And bingo was his name-o. That's what it says.
But B-I, and then they take the N out, though, right? And G-O?
Yeah.
So I guess, what are you saying that I'm doing? Not a quiz?
This is a poll.
It's a poll. It's a poll. Is it gambling? The church raffle. Raffle tickets, $5 each. Fundraiser for the youth group.
Yes, it is gambling.
Yeah.
Are you telling churches to stop it?
No.
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 Okay, 50-50 raffle. This is a big thing in Ohio. I never heard of it until I got here.
A lot of sports events
Every
have
event,
them.
even the school play in intermission has
Really?
a 50-50 raffle.
Oh, that's funny.
Wow. I'd never heard that yet.
And there's this awkward pressure where it's like, if you win the raffle, yay, now give it back. Like people donate it to the winnings, which I think is kind of like, no, I'm keeping this. I won it.
Right.
But I'm selfish, apparently. 50-50 raffle at the school, fundraiser for youth sports. Is it gambling?
Yes.
You're agreeing with her?
Yeah.
That's what I said, is yes.
How about pull tabs? Gambling?
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, no clue.
Wow, you're such good Christian girls.
Thank you.
You go to a establishment that sells various types of things, and one of the things you can do is buy it's just like it's like a scratch off, but you pull a tab. And
I guess so.
Yeah? So then scratch offs are too.
Yeah.
Gambling? Slot machines?
Oh,
Yes.
obviously.
Oh, now we're in the obviously category.
Yeah, those are obvious.
Powerball.
Yes.
Yes.
Betting on the Browns game.
Yes.
Yes.
You sure you're not guaranteed to win on that?
Only
I mean, you
yeah,
bet
we're only
against the Browns.
guaranteed. Yeah.
And pretty
Is it even gambling?
Because you know what's going to happen.
It's called an investment.
So now, some of you were saying that bingo was gambling. And yet, would you play?
I would.
I wouldn't, just because it doesn't sound appealing, not because I think there's anything wrong with bingo.
Let's say Jimmy really wanted to play bingo.
Then he can go play bingo and I will stay home.
You won't ask him to repent on the drive home.
And if he wants to play bingo, I don't really care.
Does God care, Daria, about Jimmy playing bingo?
I don't know.
She's cagey today. She's
Yes.
cagey on Mondays.
It's President's Day.
You want me to get it? Are we jumping there? I can get into the theology of it.
Yeah, I mean, are you going to ask him to repent?
No. I don't know that this is one of those things that, I mean, it's one of those things that could be a problem. Like, there are a lot of things in life that are either good or neutral, and how you use them could be bad. And, well, I think gambling definitely has a potential to be a problem. I'm not sure that bingo at a church function for a fundraiser falls into that category, unless it's an actual habit and you're losing all your money on it.
Right.
Yeah, and see, whenever I hear Christians talk about gambling, what I usually hear is them going to the obvious ones.
The casino.
Yeah, go to the casino? Sure. Yeah, obviously gambling. Don't do that. I think there's enough of is a sliding scale the right phrase? There's enough out there that's like, is it gambling?
Sure.
So let's do this. We'll take a break. When we come back, our quiz/poll is over, and we're going to start looking at gambling more specifically, as in you won't believe how many people were betting on the Super Bowl. What are Christians to do with that type of gambling? We'll get to it in a minute.
Heritage Classical Academy is a classical Christian school with campuses in Peninsula and Pepper Pike. They offer preschool through 12th grade at their school in Northeast Ohio. Learn how Heritage partners with families to prepare our children to winsomely engage the world for the cause of Christ as we cultivate wisdom, virtue, and Christ-likeness. Visit our website to register for preview days on February 27, March 4, or March 6, or sign up for an individual tour at heritageclassicalacademy.org.
You know, you're really not stuck, really. People think when it comes to paying for health care, they just have to kind of go along with the way it is, no matter how frustrated they are with it. But it's not true. MediShare has been a huge help to people for 30 years now. And more these days, especially, people are realizing what a great alternative it is. And the difference isn't just the savings, which are huge. It's the whole thing. You're a part of something good. It's a community of people who care for and pray for and encourage each other. You don't have to pay for things you don't believe in either. You're actually sharing. And yeah, back to the savings, often up to $500 a month with MediShare. The customer service is refreshing too, because they're for you. It's just a different way. And even though you might feel stuck with the frustrating status quo, it's not so. You can call them now and start saving and feeling better about how you're doing it too. Here's the number. It's 877-58-BIBLE. That's 877-58-BIBLE. 877-58-BIBLE.
Bringing Northeast Ohio and Western Pennsylvania closer to Christ, one conversation at a time. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio, Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio, Cleveland. 103.3
It's Mornings with Brian, live from the North Coast Family Foundation sponsored studio. Whether it's your faith or your health, you don't have to journey alone. It's 6:51 here on WCRF. We're talking about Ron's favorite subject, gambling. Just kidding. He's not his favorite. But
Don't put that on Ron.
check out the stats on this, you guys. So
Okay.
the Super Bowl, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nearly 68 million Americans were expected to place bets on the Super Bowl.
That's a lot.
And these are like
could be
professional
anything.
bets, not like, among your friends. Like, oh, I'll shake your hand and I'm taking the Eagles, you're taking the Chiefs.
Oh, like with whatever those apps are called or whatever.
Yeah, it's actual legit placing a bet, formally speaking.
Right.
And it should be it was a record-breaking $23.1 billion.
Oh my goodness.
Now, for those who don't remember, sports gambling has only been legal in the U.S. since 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not very long.
The Supreme Court overturned a federal ban on that. But here's the hard part. The Bible doesn't say, thou shalt not gamble. Doesn't say that.
True.
It says a lot of things, though, of course. A lot of things about wisdom. Proverbs 13:11, wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it. Hebrews 13:5, keep your life free from the love of money and be content with what you have, for he has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Ecclesiastes 5:10, he who loves money will not be satisfied with money, nor he who loves wealth with his income. This also is vanity. So then what makes you all think you can go around playing bingo like a bunch of crazy people? What do you, love money?
Well, church bingo, we're saying we're raising money for the youth group missions trip or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's not because I'm amassing my own wealth.
But
It's fun. It's low stakes. I think that might be a bit of a difference too.
it appeals to your greed, because why not just say, hey, let's take an offering for the church missions trip? You're not going to get near the participation you will.
That's right.
If there's some incentive for people to give.
Isn't that a funny thing? Like, you're right. You want to make a lot of money for the youth group? Have a raffle or a bingo game.
Mm-hmm.
You want to make not much? Just ask people to give.
A silent auction.
Sure. Oh boy, yeah, a big fundraiser for
I love a silent auction.
the theater department in my kids' school is during the play. They have a bunch of local businesses donate baskets of, like, a little cute little basket with a bunch of things in it, and you buy a raffle ticket and you stick it in the basket you want.
Okay.
And it raises money for the arts.
Mm-hmm.
If I do that, are you mad at me? Am I a sinner?
No, I'm not mad at
No.
you for gambling.
Okay, so then how do we draw this line, I think, is the bigger question for believers. Because what a lot of people do is the easy thing. They go, listen, love of money, root of all evil, gambling, therefore, bad. Any kind of gambling, repent. And you all are not willing to draw that line.
I mean, I think we need to state the obvious that gambling is not a wise thing to do. I mean, I think for a fundraiser, it falls into its own category where I do believe there's a little bit more wiggle room. Gambling in itself is not wise, although it may not inherently be wrong. Where it's actually a problem is when it's controlling you. Yeah. Are you consumed by this? Are you blowing your entire paycheck on gambling? That's unquestionably a problem.
Yeah, and it's a slippery thing, right? I mean, somebody might go, well, Daria, I'm not going to do that much. And a little bit becomes a little bit more, a little bit more, and it becomes an avalanche. Now, if it's just a bunch of friends at a Super Bowl party, you got a problem with throwing down $5 each or something? I don't know how that would work. I'm not a gambling person, but
I don't have any problem with it.
Because it's just for fun.
Yeah. But then, total honesty, I don't have a problem with somebody throwing $2 at the Powerball every now and then. I look at it as you're paying for the opportunity to have some dreams for a while. What would I do with $2 billion or what, when it gets huge like that? And you dream, and then you lose the money, which almost always happens to almost everybody, and you're out $2. Now, if you can't afford to lose $2, then
it's
a problem. And if you're, some people are like, well, I really want to enhance my odds, so I'm going to buy 25 $2 tickets. You just threw away $50. Can you afford to do that?
Right.
Because your chances went from 1 in a gazillion to 10 in a gazillion. You really didn't up your chances all that much.
Yeah, and I think this becomes a challenge when someone goes, yeah, but Ron, it's about wisdom. It's not wise to spend $2. Even if you know it, there's better things you could do with that $2.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I say to that person is, all right, let me follow you around grocery shopping.
Yes.
And we're going to look at your cart and see how wise you are. Oh, I'm sorry. You don't need that candy bar, do you?
Ice cream, soda.
Oh, yeah. No, you don't. That's not wise. It's not good for your body. Body's a temple of the Holy Spirit. Get behind me, Satan. I mean, but this is where people are selective about where they apply their wisdom. Yeah. Here's another one. Ron spent $2 on a lottery ticket. Somebody else spent $6 on a tall at Starbucks.
Which is the same. The tall is very small.
Exactly. I don't know why they call it that.
Because they rhyme.
It's not tall.
This person has perfectly good coffee at home.
But they just want a little treat.
It's not wise. It's not a wise use of your money.
Yeah, no. I agree.
So do you see how this is? I think this is one that wisdom has to prevail, but one has to not be self-righteous about it. And you have to know that you're not prone to the addiction. Like this is where I admire people who, when it comes to alcohol, for example, they go, listen, I struggle with addiction. I can't go to a bar. Not even going to try. And I go, God bless you. That's a strength of will that I think is amazing.
Yeah.
Same with gambling. But you could be like me as well. And somebody can, if you're ready to get angry, get out that piece of paper and get a Sharpie and start writing your letter. But Sarah and I went on a cruise, right? And we were like, let's go check out the casino. Let's go look at it. Went through there, and I had a couple of bucks, I think. And I put one in a slot machine. I looked for one that was really easy. All of them are way too complicated these days. You guys ever walk through a casino? It's crazy.
It's been years. A very long time.
It had been a long time for me, and they're all way too complicated. So I put in a little bit. That's a couple bucks, and I didn't even know which. I pushed the button, blew the entire thing on one spin.
Yeah, you're almost always going to lose.
And I was like,
house always wins.
Like, well, that was fun. Let's go. And that's it.
A lot of people can't do that, though. I mean, Jimmy and I have done a couple cruises. There are inevitably people that spend literally the whole cruise at the slot machines, blow way too much money. I mean, we got in an elevator with someone that's like, oh, I had a horrible night. I lost like $1,500. It's like, how do you do that? Like, it's a real problem, and I think you do need to be careful. Even like you were saying, just going one pull at a slot machine, for some people, that's enough to set them off.
Yeah, and I saw one pastor was writing in Christianity Today, or no, it was Relevant Magazine, and they were talking about how, at first glance, sports betting doesn't seem like a big deal. Plenty of people play small wagers, $5 here, $10 there on games with friends. Maybe they throw money for the Super Bowl pool at work, no big deal. But it can slowly descend into obsession. He says pretty soon you got the apps downloaded, you're following multiple teams, you're checking the odds constantly. You're drifting into a problem.
Right.
So this is why wisdom would typically dictate, I think, that just don't do it. I mean, once in a while, you buy a lottery ticket or whatever, you don't need to repent about it. But there's just not much wisdom in doing it.
No. You can see why for hundreds of years there was a line many people stuck to, very black and white. You don't gamble at all. You never let alcohol cross your lips. Whatever. They had a list of sins that you didn't come anywhere near.
Yeah.
And then you were safe. But that you miss a lot of life by staying so far to one side of what you consider sin.
And we look like hypocrites, because what you end up seeing then is somebody watching a bunch of Christians have a quilt auction or a raffle or gambling in the church basement. It's just called bingo. And they go, what's wrong with you people? Well, the consistent answer is that it's not explicitly a sin, but it's certainly not super wise either. And you ought to be very cautious and careful with it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where you would park, Bible scholar?
Yeah,
Lauren?
I think so. I just like we talked about with, you're getting a $12 coffee at Starbucks. It's $12 if you get a breakfast sandwich with it. And if it's outside of your budget, that's unwise. Everyone has discretionary funds in their budget that you and your spouse have agreed upon, this is how much I can spend per month on whatever I want to spend on. If it's outside of your budget and you can't afford that, that's unwise. It's when you start to become, it's an addiction to gambling.
It
It's when you
captures your heart.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's where the scale tips.
Yep.
7:02, time for Ron's news and today's Moron Moment. Maybe Friday we'll have to bring that one back up and see what y'all think, because there were some people with some thoughtful text messages there as well. So always reach out. We love hearing from you. 440-546-2255.
Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, and everywhere with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
The Trump administration is firing over 400 employees at the Department of Homeland Security. It is 7:02. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. The majority of the cuts were employees from FEMA, but workers at the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency and U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services were also terminated. A DHS spokesperson says, under President Trump's leadership, we are making sweeping cuts and reform across the federal government. Cleveland City Council member Carrie McCormick will not stand for re-election this fall. McCormick, the council majority leader, made the announcement on Friday and expressed gratitude to his supporters. An investigation is underway after students found razor blades inside Valentines that they received at school. The first graders at Akron's Hatton Community Learning Center received the Valentines from a classmate on Thursday. The father of the student that brought the Valentines to school says they were purchased from a novelty store. In sports, Team Shaq took down Team Chuck 41-25 to win the 2025 NBA All-Star Game at Chase Center. And 3 countries are still vying for a spot in the Four Nations Face-Off Final. The United States clinched a berth in Thursday's championship game with a 3-1 win over Canada on Saturday. Now here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. A winter weather advisory that had been in effect all overnight has now passed. So we can expect cloudy skies, a slight chance of snow showers this morning, patchy blowing snow this afternoon. It's going to be breezy and much cooler with highs around 18 degrees. Wind chill values as low as 4 below. So be prepared if you do step outside. At last check, light snow 19 degrees in Cleveland, 17 in Akron and Canton. Mansfield checks in with clear skies and 12 degrees.
It's time for your Moron Moment.
National Pancake Week takes place in the last week of February. This year it is, of course, February 17th to the 23rd. Although pancakes are often branded as a breakfast food, they can actually be eaten at any time of the day. Pancakes and their variations are found in almost every culture. In certain countries, pancakes resemble the French crepe, while in others, what the U.S. calls pancakes are known as flapjacks or crumpets. And that's your Moron Moment. And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 7:05 with Moody Radio News. I'm Ron Eastwood.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
It's a cultural milestone that was all over the media last night, / for the last couple of days. 50 years, 50, of Saturday Night Live. I grew up a super fan. Like when I was a little boy in middle school, it was the era of like Mike Myers, Dana Carvey, Chris Farley, David Spade, like all those guys, Adam Sandler. And really, if you didn't watch on Saturday night, you would be left out of lunch table conversations on Monday.
Definitely.
Because we all talked about the skits and recreated them, and like it was just like the greatest thing ever. Was that your experience?
Different era.
Because your era was more it wasn't the original cast, right?
Belushi, Aykroyd, more the originals.
Okay. I thought you were much younger than that. Huh.
Well, thank you. But yeah, the same kind of thing. Somebody might go, well, excuse me. And if you hadn't been watching the night that Steve Martin was the guest host, you'd be like, what is that about? Because everyone would laugh, and you're like, just because he said it weird? And that's it. It became ingrained in popular culture.
Yeah, and I honestly, I grew up with it, watching the original series because my parents were so in love with the first couple of seasons, and Aykroyd, Chevy Chase, Belushi, all those guys, that we would go to the video store and rent the VHS tapes of the best of Gilda Radner and the best of Dan Aykroyd, and we'd watch it as a family, and they would just roar. You're all looking at me a little funny. Like, do your generations, millennials and Gen Z, at least from your experience, have that kind of attachment to SNL?
Oh no. I have never actually watched it. I've seen clips online of some of the classic iconic ones. I can honestly say I've never actually watched it.
I've never seen an entire episode of SNL.
Wow.
I've seen clips.
Right.
Wild. Are you two just weird, or is that?
No, I don't think so.
Your friends aren't like, oh, did you see it?
No.
SNL, so funny.
I don't have any friends that ask me if I've watched the latest SNL.
I could kind of tell that by the smirk you were giving me describing my childhood, but I'm telling you, like Saturday night.
Yeah, I know that.
Like I don't want to be home by the time it started.
I know it's a big deal. It's just not a big deal for people my age.
It's just not the cultural phenomenon it once was.
We didn't have the social media type replays where you could get up the next morning and see the funny clips.
Yeah, I think what's different for us is that we can get just the really good ones.
That's right.
You don't have to watch all the middle of the road ones that maybe didn't hit as well. You get just the good ones.
If you missed Matt Foley, motivational speaker, you were a total loser. You had no idea.
You probably live in a van down by the river.
That's right. And to describe the cultural phenomena of the Blues Brothers in the late 70s, early 80s, and Wayne's World in the 90s, even looking back at Wayne's World, I'm like, why did we enjoy that? It's not even that funny. And yet it captivated America. So are you two ready to tell us older folks to repent? We shouldn't watch terrible things like that?
No. We just didn't watch it. It just wasn't part of our upbringing.
I mean, there's Christians who ran off the road hearing we did this.
Yeah, we watched people like, Amy Poehler and Tina Fey in movies.
Right.
We just didn't watch them on
They had their own
SNL.
Series.
Yeah.
They each had a series.
Right.
Now, I object to some of the raunchiness that was even around in as much as people don't want to admit this, the first few seasons with the original cast, plenty of raunchy material.
Oh, yeah.
People forget that. Now, I object to that part of it. But you're saying it's okay for me to laugh at comedy as a believer.
Yes.
Why wouldn't it be okay to enjoy comedy?
I got to tell, when I was first in radio, I'm on a show with my pastor, and we were laughing a little bit. Somebody called at the end of the show, "Excuse me, what are you doing laughing? This is the Christian faith. This is serious business. We're talking about life, death, and resurrection here, and you two are yucking it up on the radio."
And if a station manager felt that way, he would have the lowest listener numbers in the universe. People like to laugh. Normal Christians like to laugh. We laugh at home. Why wouldn't we want to laugh with our church family?
Yeah, and I think satire actually plays a really important role in society. Is that a super nerdy former teacher thing to say.
Yes.
I get it, though. That it gives you the opportunity to look at something from a different perspective and maybe invite some critical thinking.
Yeah, I mean, to give an example, The Daily Show on Comedy Central is certainly slanted, but they also do a decent job poking at both sides with satire. And sometimes it's just that levity helps us all kind of breathe for a minute on some tough things in culture and society.
Mm-hmm.
And SNL was one of the first places to like make fun of presidents.
Oh, yeah. They had Gerald Ford.
Chevy Chase, yeah.
Yeah, he would be stumbling everywhere because President Ford had tripped and stumbled a couple times. So they just blew it up, and made it just everywhere he'd stumble.
Or when David Spade would do George W. Bush?
Dana Carvey.
Dana Carvey. And he would always squint his eyes. Because it was true. It's like exaggerated, but it's true.
Not gonna do it. Wouldn't be prudent.
Yeah.
It really, I don't know. I think it plays an important role in society, and I've been geeking out. Like I'm gonna watch the music special. I started watching last night, but I'm just I have to go to bed early.
It seems like every streaming service has some documentary about SNL 50. I skip them all, but they're there.
There aren't many cultural institutions that last that long. I mean, something being popular for 50 years is just unheard of. And so I think it's worth pausing for a minute to look at. I don't know what to do with. It's just wild how much life has changed, I mean, Ron and I are a significant distance apart in age, for the moment, and yet our experiences with the show were very similar. And you all interacting with it a different way is just funny to me. Not bad.
You're not allowed to think things are funny, Brian.
And there've been a number of people who've tried to steal part of that audience. Mad TV tried to do the similar, almost identical
Kids in the Hall
format. Yeah, Kids in the Hall in Canada tried to do that. And they did well in their own respective ways. Nothing to the extent of SNL, but they did well. And the other thing about SNL is the burnout that it left in its wake. That the people needing to come up, oh, that was great. Okay, next week you got to do a show just as great. Really? And they'd start oftentimes drinking, doing drugs.
Oh yeah, it was a traumatic experience for every cast member. Every cast member, and I'm like kind of a super fan. It's embarrassing, but I've listened to so many interviews, and for all of them, they loved it, but were also deeply traumatized by the experience.
Yeah,
we all get to watch and laugh, but
we had a similar show. It's called The Amanda Show.
Oh, okay, no. Yeah, I remember that.
Or All That.
It didn't go well for Amanda.
No,
poor Amanda is not doing well
She's
today.
Not doing well. But All That was that for kids.
Mm-hmm. Was All
Sketch
That
comedy.
with Keenan Thompson?
Correct.
And
look at him now.
Keenan is so funny.
He is funny.
He did this. What's up with that is one of the funny things. What's up with that? Oh, goodness sakes, that skit's funny.
And he's like one of the people that's been on there like the longest. Like he's had the longest run on SNL.
Yeah, over 20 years as a cast member. One of my very favorites, though, is Eddie Murphy's James Brown Celebrity Hot Tub. You don't remember this?
No.
He rescued the show in the 80s, but he did an impression of James Brown that will just knock you off your feet. It's amazing. I won't do the impression just because nobody knows what it is. 7:18, we got more coming here. Just thought I'd throw that down. Worth noting that, yeah, it is okay to laugh, my friend.
Moody Radio is on the air thanks to the support of listeners and Hawkins Sales. They've been serving our region's electrical industry for over 40 years. More information about Hawkins Sales is at hawkinssales.com. Set up your phone or other calendar for Walkworthy, our annual men's conference on March 1st. Paul Cannings from Power Walk, Mike Frazier from Rejoicing in Truth, and Rodney Maiden from The Edifying Word will be speaking. And don't forget about the fellowship and worship music. We hope to see you again, or for the first time, at Canton Baptist Temple. Whether you want to come in person or via live stream, register at moodyconferences.com or text WALK to us at 440-546-2255.
It's true. Even kids can experience temptation. Help your children understand what temptation is and how God gives them the power to resist it. With our February Today in the Word Family Study. Today in the Word Family Studies have age-appropriate discussion questions and activities that will help your children enjoy spending time in God's Word. To download your free copy of this month's family study, go to todayintheword.com/family. Spend time in God's Word together. todayintheword.com/family.
Are you looking for candid conversation from a biblical perspective? You found it. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
(7:22), exactly 1 week from Saturday, is the Walk Worthy Men's Conference. I can't even believe it.
It's here.
It's coming up so fast.
It's time. No more procrastinating. Get your tickets.
You need to get your tickets. It's going to be amazing. We've got all three speakers have programs right here on Moody Radio. Pastor Mike Frazier of Canton Baptist Temple, Pastor Rodney Maiden of Providence Baptist Church, Pastor Paul Cannings, Power Walk Ministries. We're getting all the snow in place for our friend from Houston, Pastor Paul Cannings. Ron's going to be there.
Yes.
Yeah.
What else do you need?
Even if there's snow, I don't mind. The cold never bothered me anyway, just like Elsa.
Well, you work for UPS too, so was it neither snow nor rain nor...
That's the U.S. Postal Service.
But he delivers important things that
Yes.
people are expecting.
People need me to throw their boxes around the building.
Gently. But we'd love to see you there. Tickets are on sale, but they're going quickly. We'd love you to be a part of it and not miss out. There'll be a panel discussion. I'm still perfectly refining the concept of it. But what we'll do is we'll get all three pastors up there, and we're going to essentially open up the floor throughout the morning for you to, submit your questions on how you can live out your faith in Christ in all the relationships in your life, whether it's in your marriage, at work, as a parent, with your friends, at your church, whatever it is. We all have difficulty living out our faith in relationship. And so that's a time for you to be able to bring to the table, anonymously, by the way, a struggle you're having in your marriage, a struggle you're having at work, a struggle with the idea of manhood, whatever it is. And you get a panel of pastors answering it, and you're going to bless somebody else in the process. We did this with women a few years ago, and it was actually a bit, I don't know whether, it wasn't a negative overwhelming, but it was overwhelming to see how many burdens women were carrying.
Mm-hmm.
And how relieved they were to have a place to just voice them. So guys, this will be your shot. It can be anonymous, and I'll be the guy to ask your awkward question. Don't worry. You know how awkward I am. I'll enjoy it.
You won't know if they're Brian's questions or someone else's.
You really won't. You'll have no idea. And so join us for this. It'll help you grow closer to Jesus, and you'll get some Christian chicken along the way. So text WALK to 440-546-2255. Text WALK to 440-546-2255. Got another advice column. Lauren loves a good advice column. Here we go. This one's a Dear Eric.
Okay.
Feels less, I don't know,
Who gave
less
Eric
Dear Abby.
the authority to answer anything?
I know. It's like, dear random guy. In a few weeks, my sons, 22 and 20, will be coming for a visit. Both have stated that they do not wish to renew their rental lease. I love and like my boys, which there is a difference.
Mm-hmm.
I would welcome them with open arms. But there has to be rules and boundaries. Is asking them to work part-time instead of full-time while they pursue their dreams and a small amount of rent too much?
No.
Not at all.
And also, why is he saying it's a visit? They're moving back in.
Right. I was wondering that too.
A visit is not. What are they doing? Are they coming for a visit or are they moving back in?
Yeah. Eric wrote, I'm curious how we jumped from them visiting to them moving in with you.
Yeah, exactly.
But I presume that must be a result of much longer conversation. So she must feel that it's coming, that they're gonna move home.
Okay.
And I think the core of her question is, I don't know why part-time needs to be a...
Because they want to pursue their dreams. They're like,
what does that mean? Like go to school or...
I don't know.
But I guess
she didn't share that.
The bigger thing is, do they have to pay some sort of rent?
I think so. I don't think that's a blanket. Your kids should pay rent when they move in. I think it depends on the situation, why they're moving back in. For these kids, it doesn't sound like there's any sort of trouble where they would need a little bit of a break to get back on their feet. They're young. Sounds like they just don't want to pay rent, maybe, is kind of the vibe I got from it. So, yeah, I think it's absolutely not only fine but necessary to say these are the house rules and you are expected to contribute something towards the living expenses.
Now, you don't have to answer this, Lauren.
I'm willing. I know what you're going to ask. Go ahead.
But we all know you lived with your parents for a year?
Yep.
And you were actually broadcasting from their spare bedroom
yes.
for a while. So did they sit you down and say you must pay rent?
No, because the purpose of us living with them was to save money.
Right.
We didn't want to pay rent somewhere because we wanted to save money for a down payment on a house. But we contributed to the house via groceries or... paper towels, toilet paper, cleaning supplies, like the general upkeep of the house.
Was there a contract that made you comply with that?
No.
They asked you to do it nicely.
I don't even think they asked us to do it. We just did it.
So what were their expectations? You're like, hey, we want to live with you to save money. And they're like, come on in.
Yes.
Period.
Yeah.
Not like, you better get out in a year or we're going to have a conversation here.
No, we came to them and said, this is our plan. This is what we'd like to do. We want to live with you for 1 year. We will be out within a year. That is our goal. We don't want to live with you for more than a year.
So now, Daria, I agree with you that like there's nothing wrong with rent.
Mm-hmm.
No.
How do you process that scenario?
I think Lauren's scenario is totally different because there was a plan. I'm not saying you have to charge your kids rent. I think there are plenty of cases where you should. She had a family coming in. She said that this is our plan. We're still going to contribute. We're going to be out in this length of time versus you got a 20 and a 22-year-old. You want to make sure that things are not so comfy. They just park there indefinitely.
Yeah. I mean, if you've got the kid who's like, man, this whole job thing is cramping my video game style. Can I move in with you? I don't know. I'm not sure about that. There's going to have to be rent or something. But yeah, I mean, if my kids came to me, my adult kids who were full-time employed and say, gosh, we want a down payment on a house. We just can't save enough. Could we live with you while we work? Absolutely. You going to charge us anything? No.
Similarly, if you've got a kid that's in a messy divorce, like don't charge that kid rent. unless you absolutely have to for whatever reason, because they need some time to get back on their feet.
Right.
But I would argue perhaps you are charging rent, but not necessarily in the monetary form. But you are going to, make deals about you're going to cook dinner 3 nights a week. You're going to handle the dishes, the laundry, the sweeping and dusting, and that there's things that you will agree upon that are going to be shared. As Dave would say, the chores that have to be done around the house. Because they've got to be done. It's going to increase. Should the matriarch of the family bear the burden of the extra people coming in to live there?
Yeah, I'm sorry, grown man. Do you need your mommy to pick up after you?
Probably.
No.
But
Did you all experience this at some point? You don't have to answer that, obviously.
Yeah, all the kids rebounded at least once.
So did you have a sit down? Did you have a contract? Did you have a...
No, I guess the way we did it was more, come on in. And then we started talking about, okay, here's what you got to do. I don't think we ever charged monetarily rent, but we did expect, you're going to help mow the lawn in the summer. You're going to help shovel snow in the winter. The different things that go on.
Did they do that?
Yeah.
Did you have to nag them to do it?
Sometimes, but not always, though. They realized how they were ahead by not having to, pay rent at the inflated rate even back then of an apartment. And when my daughter moved back in, she brought her daughter with her, and that was like, instead of paying us with money, we got paid with love, because having that little bugger around was great.
So how does someone navigate this? I mean, because it sounds like we're saying there's no rule. Rules are easier. Saying flat out charge rent could actually hurt your relationship. I think as parents, we got to help take care of our kids, whether or not they're minors, if they need help.
Part of it is the child's attitude. Like if they're coming in because, like you said, this is cramping my video game style, and I want to be up late playing games, and they really want me to be at work by 8 or 7:30. Are they kidding? I'm not going to bed till then. Well, okay, you child have a problem. And if I bring you in, I'm just enabling your problem. So you may need to have them hit bottom so they realize, okay, time to grow up, put the video games aside until you're mature enough to handle them.
I like that, Ron. I think it's super helpful. And I even wonder if we live in an era where almost the right thing to do is to tell your kids, if you need this, we want to help you get launched into life, and we know things are not affordable. Like, as in, use us as your launching pad. Finish your college degree, finish your training, whatever you're going to do. Live here while you save so you can survive. You're nodding, because I think we're almost at that point right now.
Yeah, I do think that we're at that point right now. I would be worried that a child may use their parents, and inevitably when you have more people in the house, you're using more water, using more electricity, heat, all of that. I wouldn't want the parents to be spending more money in utilities and groceries, and the child has to do nothing.
Yeah.
I'm not okay with an adult child coming home and just sitting there. I think you need to contribute somehow.
And so it's probably good to sit down and talk through that in advance.
Because if I just let you stay here and not do anything, then I'm not setting you up for success when you do eventually go out and you realize, oh, I have to pay utilities, and oh, I have to pay groceries, and I think you need to have some responsibility, a bill of some kind. Are you going to pay the cable bill? Are you going to pay streaming services bills? Are you going to pay the heat?
Something.
Yeah.
I think it's totally situational. So when I moved back home after college, I was incredibly motivated to get out. My parents knew I was not going to be there very long. Rent wasn't even a conversation because they knew I was motivated and was actively working to get out. And I was only there for a few months. My brother, he took his time. It's all right, but he was there longer. So at some point they did have the conversation of like, listen, if you're going to stay here, you need to pay a little bit of rent until you can get on your feet. And it wasn't a lot, but it was enough to make him realize that he had to take some responsibility, and he did. And he's grown up a lot.
Now, we got to take a quick break, and I want to share with you, we had a question from a listener here that I think is the next level on this. Somebody said, what do you do when your adult child's not respecting the curfew time and the house rules? Let's talk about that together here in just a minute.
You know, you're really not stuck, really. People think when it comes to paying for health care, they just have to kind of go along with the way it is, no matter how frustrated they are with it. But it's not true. MediShare has been a huge help to people for 30 years now. And more these days, especially, people are realizing what a great alternative it is. And the difference isn't just the savings, which are huge. It's the whole thing. You're a part of something good. It's a community of people who care for and pray for and encourage each other. You don't have to pay for things you don't believe in either. You're actually sharing. And yeah, back to the savings, often up to $500 a month with MediShare. The customer service is refreshing too because they're for you. It's just a different way. And even though you might feel stuck with the frustrating status quo, it's not so. You can call them now and start saving and feeling better about how you're doing it too. Here's the number. It's 877-58-BIBLE. That's 877-58-BIBLE. 877-58-BIBLE.
Keeping your eyes on Jesus in a changing culture can be difficult. Let us help. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio, Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio, Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
739 WCRF, Cleveland Plain Dealer had a opinion column where someone asked if they should charge their adult child rent if they need to come live with them for a little while to save up some money. We had a little chat about that and got an interesting text, Lauren.
Yes. So, what do you do when they're not respecting the curfew time / house rules?
If we're talking about adult children, my unconventional response to that is that really not a great idea to have a curfew for your adult child.
Yeah.
I don't think that you should do that at all.
That's honestly, I think it's going to build resentment.
Yeah, like if you're rule heavy with your adult child, you could really hurt your relationship. Like, Ron, did you have lots of rules for the kids when they moved back home?
Not really. We tended to have more conversations where Dana particularly would be concerned with, if they're not home at night, where are they? Do I need to start calling hospitals? That kind of thought. So she would want to know, hey, if you're planning to be out late, let me know.
Just update me. Don't ask me. Just update me so I know that you're not in a ditch.
Right.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I also think it's fair to say you need to treat me with respect. You need to help pitch in with the dishes or the garbage or whatever. But yeah, they are adults and they do have autonomy. And even though they're under your roof, there are certain things I just don't think you can expect from another adult because your relationship has changed. I just don't think you can impose a curfew on them.
What about rules? Like, what about house rules? I'm trying to figure out what that would be. Like, ask to be excused from your table and clean up after yourself.
Yeah.
Is that a rule or is that just common courtesy?
Well, it usually starts as a rule, and then hopefully you're adept enough to pick it up and make it part of your life.
I mean,
I think some adult children, especially when they're on the younger end of the spectrum, are going to need that spelled out for them. Hopefully that's not a conversation you have to have more than a few times. But if you need to, then just say, hey, you're living here. I'm giving you either free rent or a huge break on rent. Just we're part of a family. Like we help each other out type of conversation.
As opposed to, I mean, I would be concerned with, you're moving back home? Great. We're going to rewind. We're back to when you're 16.
Mm-hmm.
All the rules apply again. That's a really not great idea at all.
No, not at all.
It should be just a little bit more restrictive than if you had a family friend live with you for a short time, right? I mean, they're an adult.
Mm-hmm. And I do think because they are living in your house, I do think there are things you can say, these are expectations. If you're going to live here, like you need to get a job or have a plan to get a job, something like that. But there are limitations because they are also an adult. You are both adults and you need to figure out how to navigate your relationship as adults, not I'm a parent and you are my child.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I hadn't thought about, but I was assuming that they're working. If they're not working, that would be one of the rules that you were pursuing employment, somehow out applying for jobs, doing something to gain an employment.
Yeah, not working unless they're injured.
Right.
This would not be a choice. And I don't even know, like, can I live with you and not work? No. No. I mean, so I guess that would make some sense as a rule, and you would know when that would have to be the case. What other? I guess I don't know. I would just be cautious with the curfew and rules bit with an adult child.
If they tried to park in the garage and that's mom's spot, that's a rule. But they will know about that soon.
Well, and I think the way to handle it is be like, hey, dude, what are you doing parking in mom's spot? Come on, don't do that. As opposed to, we have rules, they are posted, child. Sit down, listen to your mommy, or there'll be a spanking.
So what if there's you've decided, kind of like Ron said, you'll help mow the lawn or you'll help shovel the snow, and they're not doing that?
Yeah, it's a tough one. What did you do, Ron?
You have a conversation, and you just say, look, we all need to pull our weight around here. I'm working 2 jobs, or depending which time it was, I might have been working a 10 to 12 hour a day job, and I'm tired when I get home. I'll get out there and mow the yard if I have to, but would be nice if you, with your 8-hour day job, would step up and do it. And even there, I'm getting a little snarky. I try not to do snark and sarcasm and meanness in any way, but to just point out, we all need to do something. You know, Mom cooks because you would not appreciate it if I cooked. It would not taste near as good.
And if you don't change, I'll start cooking.
Yeah. So, we have to pick up on other things.
Yeah.
Trash can gets full, take the bag out, put a new bag in. You know, it's not just one step, but you got to put a new bag in there. Dishes in the sink, you see them, wow, you've noticed them. Do something about it.
Yeah.
The dishwasher, the little blue lights on that says it's done, open it up, take them out, put them away. And if you don't know where something goes, just lay a towel on the counter and set them there. And Mom will come, she'll figure it out.
And don't put the entire contents of the dishwasher on that towel. We'll know what you're doing.
Right. You can guess where a lot of stuff goes just by opening a cabinet.
I think, too, depending on how things are, if they're just really refusing to do anything and they're not respecting you, I think as hard as it is at that point, you can maybe start having conversations of maybe this isn't working out and you should find another place to live.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's hard, but yeah, I don't know that you have much other choice than that. And if it does get to the extreme case where they're like, no, I refuse to work and do anything, I'm just going to stay here, you can actually, I think, move towards eviction at that point because they're not a minor anymore.
True.
Which would be super awkward, but I hope your kids would figure it out. For us, I'm remembering now with my oldest daughter, she really understands now as she's in boot camp. But I remember we had a discussion at one point where it was like, listen, it feels like you're treating this kind of like a hotel, and we're not okay with that. How are we going to fix this? It wasn't a pleasant conversation, but it worked.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess just talking about it's a good one. All right. Hope that helps your predicament. Thanks for that text. It is 7:46. This is WCRF. We got more coming up.
Hi, friend. This is Janet Parshall, host of In the Market with Janet Parshall. Are you praying for our upcoming share event starting March 11th? Hebrews 4:16 urges, let us then with confidence draw near to the throne of grace, that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in time of need. Well, share is definitely a time of need. So could I ask you to pause now and pray that God will move mightily at Share? Thank you. And please continue to pray for us in your prayers as Share begins March 11th.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
My debt problem started probably about 2016. I needed my life to change financially. I called Trinity and I ended up joining based on high credit card bills and high interest rate. And my counselor at Trinity has been great, and Trinity has been helping me to get on the right path of paying off these credit card bills, bringing down the interest rate. They have consolidated my bills into one low monthly payment. And now I am finally getting out of credit card debt. So I just want to say thank you, Trinity, for showing me a better and greater path.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-659-9838.
My name is Sharon, and soon I will be debt-free for keeps.
1-800-659-9838.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m. Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
There's joy in the journey. It's Mornings with Brian from the North Coast Family Foundation sponsored studio. Good morning from Moody Radio Cleveland. I'm back and in from Chicago. It was a great trip with my daughter. Highly recommend you do Experience Moody if you or your grandkid or somebody is thinking about going to Moody Bible Institute. We had a fabulous time, and it's not just because I work there. Like I'm telling you, like they knocked me off my feet. I was like, well, this is spectacular. I can't believe I work here. As opposed to
big fan of Moody Bible Institute now.
But yeah. I mean, I've always have been a fan, of course, but just what they do for young people is pretty incredible.
Yeah. Good.
It's like, oh, no wonder Lauren's so great. Oh,
Thanks.
You bet. Although you said I visited the wrong floor, right? Like the cool kids were on Houghton 10.
My floor was 10 West, yes. 10 West is best. Obviously.
We visited 9, which was almost there, but not quite.
Well, 9 is fine.
Wow. We're on Eastwood. But anyway, I'm glad to be back. Thanks to the team for all you did in my absence. And one of the things that we like to do in recent weeks is talk about some of the character of God. And there's some certain things about who God is that have to be talked about. And this one's a word some of you may not have heard of before. That God is immutable. Sounds like a very heady theological term. Mm-hmm. Immutable. And what does that mean? Well, basically what it means is his character does not change.
Right.
It's really, I think, a fancy word for Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever.
And it also means he can't do things that are against his character.
Tell me more.
So things like God is a loving God, so he's not going to do things to harm people. He's a kind and gracious God. He's not going to do things to harm people because that's against his character. He can't do things against his character.
Because his character is immutable.
Right.
As in, like, it can't be moved.
It can't be moved.
So it also says here, and this is from Bible to Life, a wonderful resource from Moody Bible Institute. The immutability of God means that we know how God will be and how he will interact with us and treat us. He never has bad days. He never wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. As his people, we are not subject to divine whims and mood swings. He will treat us today as he has always treated his people. How does that impact the way you all live out your faith? I honestly think a lot of people don't know about this and get it wrong. Like they spend a lot of time thinking, oh, God is so mad at me. Oh, he's cast me aside.
Well, I think also a lot of people see an angry God in the Old Testament and a very loving and welcoming God in the New Testament, and they think that he's changed. He didn't change. It's different parts of who he is and how he needed to convey his message to his people changed, meaning it was a different time, but that didn't change who he was.
And you also see God being incredibly patient in the Old Testament. We don't talk or think about all the times God didn't bring the hammer down when he could have and maybe should have. But he didn't because he's very patient, and it's only when the people got to a point of they're not going to pay attention unless I do this otherwise, that's when he would send someone to invade them or whatever.
Think about the cycle of the judges over and over and over and over again. And he's still waiting.
Yeah, talk about patience.
Yeah.
Because reading Judges is like, goodness sakes.
Who are these people?
Kept doing the same dumb thing over and over again.
The same with the kings.
Yeah.
They had like 3 good kings between 2 kingdoms over centuries.
Yeah.
Soap operas today are like really boring compared to Judges.
Yeah.
And, whoa. And actually, I don't have my notes with me, but I recall looking at the scriptures where Moses, goes up Mount Sinai, gets the 10 Commandments, comes back down. It seems like it's been 5 minutes, but it's been a couple of days. And they all just gave up on everything. They've got a golden calf. They're worshiping it. Moses breaks the thing. He drops the tablets. He's all mad, goes back up. And then God describes himself to Moses. And I remember making a list. And God uses 10 different descriptors. 9 of them are loving and kind. And I remember just being like, wait, what? No, but that's consistent with his character. He's like, yeah, there are consequences, but at the end of the day, guess who I am? After you did this to me, And he describes himself in 9 out of 10 ways that are beautifully loving and patient and kind. And I didn't realize it would have been there because that's the time when he's going to throw it down, right? You people, are you kidding me? After all this, the Red Sea, the whole bit? Come on, slavery.
He's like, it's been like 2 minutes. Come on.
After all this stuff you just witnessed, I also love the gentleness he displays with specifically Elijah.
Yeah.
We talked about this in recent weeks where Elijah, has this great battle and then just sinks into this deep depression. And God's like, it's okay, I got you.
In fact, I think you called it nap and a snack.
Yes. He just needed a nap and a snack.
And he kind of grew him a tree, didn't he? No, he found the broom tree. Somebody
took
else
a rest
had
under the tree.
Something grow over them.
Jonah. He
There you
gave
go.
Jonah a tree.
Yeah. But he was like, yeah, let's take a nap.
Yeah, Elijah just needs a snack and a nap.
Maybe you need a nap.
Me too.
And then he needed another one.
And then he felt fine.
But wasn't it like a double nap?
He got 2 naps and 2 snacks.
Yes. This is what the Lord did. After, and think about, for those of you who don't know, what preceded that was one of the more wild miracles ever, where Elijah was taunting all of these prophets of Baal or Baal or something. What is the snooty way to say it?
You can say Baal. That's fine.
How do they say it at Moody Bible Institute?
Some people say Baal, yes.
Oh, boy.
And just it differs on the person.
Anyway, and he has him, douse his altar with water and all this stuff, and God rains down fire and kills her. It's just amazing, this huge thing. And then he's scared he's going to die. And God still gave him 2 naps and 2 snacks, not just 1.
Yeah.
So what do you do then with the person who's literally driving into work today or has the day off because of President's Day, and they're like, yeah, but the mad part of God is focused on me today. He's mad at me, and he doesn't like me. I've messed up too much. He's tired of me.
God's not mad at you.
He's not tired of you either.
He sent his son to die for you.
And that didn't change.
That was always the plan. Jesus coming was not plan B. You see hints woven all throughout the Old Testament that Jesus was coming, this great Messiah that was going to redeem us from ourselves, was always the plan.
And why do you think God is mad at you?
Yeah.
Chances are it's some sin that you keep doing after he's told you about it. So maybe there's action required on your part. God's not mad at you, but you're digging your own hole by staying in this repetitive sin. So get out of there.
Excellent.
Yeah, there's a difference between being mad and being grieved. I think God is grieved at our sin, especially our habitual sin that we keep going back to. But he's not mad at you. He knows you. He knows the human beings that he created. He knows that we're not perfect yet. He's a loving God. He wants to pick you up and carry you and wrap you in his arms and say, please, please, just come back to me and I will help you. Come to me and I will help you get through this sin, to give up this sin, to let go of this anger. But we continue to try to do it by ourselves. He's grieved, but he's not mad.
I think it was Tozer who put it that he's a God who's easy to please.
Mm-hmm.
And so if this is something maybe it's new to you that you're hearing now, or you want to learn more about that type of God, because to be honest with you, when you examine world religions, there's only one with a God that deeply loves you and was willing to die for you, and it's the Christian faith. If you want more information, text the word Jesus to us. We're not going to call you out. We're not going to post your name on the internet or something. It's just a key word where if you text the word Jesus to us, we'll send you back a link to more information about what it really means to be a follower of Jesus. Again, the word Jesus to 440-546-2255. Again, 440-546-2255.
Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, and everywhere with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio says he wants all hostages held by Hamas to be released as soon as possible. It's 8:02. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. Rubio told CBS's Face the Nation he's working closely with the Israeli government to secure their immediate release, even though the current ceasefire deal outlines a gradual release of the dozens of Israelis still in captivity. Hamas released 3 more hostages this weekend after threatening to postpone the exchange over claims that Israel is violating the ceasefire deal. With the cold temperatures this week, the city of Cleveland is providing 4 recreation centers to serve as warming centers. The Michael Zone Rec Center on Lorraine Avenue, the Lonnie Burton Rec Center on East 46th Street, the Collinwood Rec Center on Lakeshore Boulevard, and the Zelma George Rec Center on Martin Luther King Boulevard will all be available for those needing to escape the cold. Ohio Task Force 1 is now activated and deployed to Kentucky to help Ohio's southern neighbors respond to the weekend's deadly floods. Nearly 50 members of the Buckeye State's Urban Search and Rescue Team left their Dayton area headquarters yesterday. In sports, Team Shaq took down Team Chuck 41-25 to win the 2025 NBA All-Star Game at Chase Center. And 3 countries are still vying for a spot in the 4 nations face-off final. The U.S. has clinched their berth into the championship game with a 3-1 win over Canada. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Cloudy skies, a slight chance of snow showers this morning, then patchy blowing snow this afternoon. It's going to be breezy, much cooler as well, with the highs around 18 and the wind chill making it feel like 4 below. At last check, flurries and 18 degrees in Cleveland, 17 Akron and Canton, 18 in Youngstown.
It's time for your moron moment.
National Pancake Week takes place in the last week of February. Although pancakes are often branded as a breakfast food, they can actually be eaten any time of the day. Pancakes and their variations are found in almost every culture. In certain countries, pancakes resemble the French crepe, while in others, they can actually be known as flapjacks or even crumpets. And that's your Moron Moment. And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 8:05 with Moody Radio News. I'm Ron Eastwood.
Broadcasting live from the Bob Divine Studio, it's Mornings with Brian. Want to join the conversation? Call or text now at 440-546-2255. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
808 WCRF. We're 1 week away from a week from Saturday from the Walk Worthy Men's Conference. Would love to have you join us, men. That's where all the cool guys will be. Text the word WALK to 440-546-2255. Again, WALK to 440-546-2255. A week from Saturday, Canton Baptist Temple. Joining us now is a dear friend and a local legend. She is head of the Ministry of Reconciliation, the fabulous Gail Reese. Welcome back, my friend.
Thank you. Good to be back with you.
Love what you're doing, and you have a big prayer gathering coming up. Tell me about this.
Yes, we're thanking God that we're hearing the body of Christ hearts together, actually crying out to do a united call to prayer and action. United prayer gathering that's going to take place Friday, February 28th from 6 to 8:30 at the Cleveland State University Student Center Ballroom, coming together with the body of Christ because we hear the hurts, the cries, the pains that are in our community. We hear the need for the church to just be revived and restored and renewed so that we can do what God has called us to do on this earth, reach lost, hurting, wounded men and women who don't know Jesus and need to hear the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Now, if you could pinpoint it, where's your heart leaning right now in terms of like the first things on your list of prayer for our community?
The first thing on our list of prayers for the church. God would just ignite a new passion and desire in us to hear Jesus call us again to go into all the world and preach the gospel, to hear Jesus call us to unity, that we can't do it alone, just one ministry or one individual person or one church. It takes the body of Christ to reach whole cities and communities and individual families. And so we're praying for that spirit of unity to increase. Jesus prayed in John 17 that we would become one for the purpose that the world would believe that the Father sent the Son. And so that's our first cry. And then our next cry is actually for the lost, for the men and women that's hurting. They might be drug addicts. They might be those that are abused, those that are in depression and suicidalness, that we would cry out for the lost, that they would have their ears open to hear and receive the truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Now, you know, prayer gatherings used to be a big thing back in the day, and I think they've really fallen out of favor, sadly. So for the person who's never been to a larger group prayer gathering outside of their church, like, what do you expect at something like this? Is this just sit down and listen to Gail pray for an hour and a half? Or I don't think that's it. What is it?
No. It's united prayer. Thanks for that. But no, it's not about Gail at all. It's about Christ, and it's about us hearing the voice of God. What we're going to do is we start, of course, just ushering in the presence of God with praise and worship that will take place. And then we'll actually have, it's kind of like on the form of anybody's been to a concert of prayer, where we will have those certain leaders and believers. For instance, we'll be praying for education. So we'll have someone in education lead off in prayer for a minute. And then we'll have all the groups in the audience that will be separated. And for us, we're going to separate them according to the zip codes of where they live. And they'll be separated so that they can get to know one another, pray for one another with the schools, over the high schools, colleges, and universities that's in their community, and then throughout the city and the region. And so they'll have that opportunity to pray with their small groups in the auditorium. And then we'll come back and a leader in our government. We'll pray for the government, from the local government to the state government to the federal government. And then we'll also break off into our groups and be able to pray for our individual mayors and those in our cities that we need to pray for, as well as our governor and our president. And so we're believing God to just not kind of pray in a vein of criticizing or judging, but praying God's heart, praying scriptural prayers, really, over these areas in our communities.
Now, you're well known as a woman who really has passion for our community here in Northeast Ohio. What's the origin of that? Like, where does this come from that you're so passionate about lifting up our community in prayer?
Well, you know, when I was a new believer in Christ, I was very young. My father-in-law, which became my pastor as well, he actually taught us much about intercessory prayer. In fact, he came one time to a business meeting in the church and said, if you don't study this book with me on intercessory prayer, relieve your position, because he was that sold on the reality that if we're going to see God do anything worth eternity, it's going to be because intercessory prayer becomes our life. And so he sent me then with our church. We gathered, and the first initiative I gathered in was, and I didn't know anything, Brian, much about prayer then, but in 1972, Billy Graham came to Cleveland, and he pulled all of us into that volunteerism for that crusade. I just had begun reading the Bible because I was a new believer in 1970, and so I was learning God's word, but I cut my baby teeth on a Billy Graham crusade and another tent crusade that he took us to. But what I learned was that when Billy Graham came to town, his emphasis first and foremost was to gather the people to unite in prayer, because they often said to us, it's not going to be about so much, yes, Billy Graham is anointed, God uses him, people come to Christ because of the preaching that he does, but the real job is done as people cry out for those lost people, that God opens their hearts to receive. And for the people that's praying for them, we get changed into really loving them more than we've ever loved them before, because we become intercessors for our families, for our neighbors, for our community, that we in turn will invite to that Billy Graham crusade. And so I cut my teeth on that, and then by the time 1994 came, I grew up a little bit, and my prayer life had increased. I was not doing just bless me, my, and I prayers, but bless them, help them, God helps us. And through that growth, I was privileged to be a co-chair of the Billy Graham Youth Committee when he came to Cleveland in 1994. And I saw God move again because people united in prayer. And the thousands of souls, and even that time for their first ever youth event done in Cleveland, thousands of young people surrendered their lives to Jesus as well as the adults. But it became a reality as it came when the church was birthed in Jerusalem. They began with one accord in prayer. That's why those 3,000 souls were saved when Peter and all the apostles stood to preach. That's why souls were saved and people began to be discipled, because the real reality of prayer. And one of the things I had the privilege of being a part of was in this greater Cleveland area when we launched concerts of prayer. And we saw God do some amazing things also in our region. So, Brian, I think some of us have been through so much that we have been kind of lost a little bit. But I think God is giving us a renewed charge toward united prayer.
Amen. Gail, thank you for sharing your heart on that. Your love for Jesus is contagious, and your love for our community is as well. And again, we have a wonderful call to united prayer and action. The United Prayer Gathering is coming up here Friday, February 28th from 6 to 8:30 p.m. It's at Cleveland State University. And for more information, I'd imagine folks can head to your website, Gail. Is that right?
Yes, they can. They can reach the website, Ministry of Reconciliation, Inc. .com, or they can call us, 216-464-1900.
And we also have a keyword set up for you. Our friend Lauren threw that down here quickly. I don't know how she does things this fast, but text the word gathering to us, gathering, and we'll send you back a link for more information about this United Prayer and Action prayer event. Be a part of it. Lift up our community in prayer. Again, text the word gathering to 440-546-2255. Gail, Reese, we love you. Can't wait to talk to you again soon.
Brian. Appreciate all of you. Thank you so much.
817 on WCRF.
Moody Radio is thankful for listeners and support from businesses like Duma Meats and Farm Market. Duma Meats and Farm Market, supporting Moody Radio in Cleveland and surrounding areas. More information about Duma Meats and Farm Market is at dumameats.com.
If you're 65 or older, you know this. Seeing your healthcare costs go up and up is frustrating. And maybe you were just notified that your Medicare costs are increasing again, or you're just tired of the massive deductibles. Well, here's some good news. There's a program that can really help with this. It's MediShare 65 Plus. It's an affordable, reliable alternative. You can choose any Medicare provider. You get telehealth access anytime you need it. And MediShare 65 Plus is a low-cost option for those with Medicare Parts A and B, and it fills in the gaps where Medicare stops. MediShare is a Christian healthcare community that aligns with your faith. People actually pray for you, they encourage you, and it's proven too. It's been going strong for over 30 years now. So call now. You can get one low monthly price for up to 10 years. You're not stuck with increasing costs. You can do something about this today. Call MediShare 65 Plus. Find out how much you can save. Call 833-59-SHARE. That's 833-59-SHARE. 833-59-SHARE.
Get out of the sheets and into the streets.
It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
.822 WCRF. I was pleasantly surprised to hear from my oldest daughter, Grace, yesterday. If you're just tuning in and are new to us, she is at boot camp for the United States Army, going to be infantry airborne. I'm learning all the words that go with that, so if I mess them up, it's because I don't know what I'm talking about. But nonetheless, she called me in the middle of boot camp on a Sunday. She got her phone, and she shared a story with me that I'm going to briefly repeat here because I think it applies to something I want to talk about. There's a perception, at least in my world, in my existence, that like when it comes to interest in Christianity, like the older folks, we love it. But the graph just kind of goes down into the pit, into nowhere, that American society is the younger you get, the more you don't care about Jesus.
That's been the
faith.
reports, yeah.
Doesn't it seem to be that way? So you feel that way too?
Yeah, I don't, my experience doesn't necessarily show that, but that tends to be, the news is reported that way.
They're all a bunch of young atheists who just think we're a bunch of yuppies or dummies, or not yuppies, but dummies.
Or they embrace spirituality, but that could be the Dalai Lama as well as Jesus Christ.
Right. Right. What about from your end? Yeah, because if those who don't know, we have 4 generations here. I'm an Xer, Ron's a Boomer, Lauren, you're a Millennial,
Yes.
Daria, Gen Z. Have you had that perception as well about the graph of society and interest in spiritual things? It gradually gets less and less the younger you get.
I maybe thought it about Christianity, but not about spiritual things. No.
Oh, Christianity. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So you knew, how would you describe it then for folks who didn't know that?
That people are not that people are still interested in spiritual things.
Yeah. Like what? Are they doing tarot cards or something?
Yes.
Ouija boards?
Yeah.
Magic 8 balls?
Manifestation is very big among Gen Z right
Yeah.
now, which is
Manifestation.
just off-brand praying, like praying out into the ether as opposed to a specific deity.
Speak it into existence.
Yeah.
The Secret, 10 years ago was big.
Hi, I'm Brian, and I live under a rock.
Yeah,
what's the appeal
or,
of praying
people,
to
like,
nothing?
A lot of young people in culture today are like really into astrology and stuff, and so they want to find answers and they want to find meaning somewhere.
The thing with manifestation is it's like self-empowerment. I am God. They
Right.
would not say those things, but it's like if I believe something enough, it'll happen.
Do you close your eyes and bow your head?
I don't know.
No,
So you
You just like think it.
just or like they speak it and that like
where, to someone?
No.
just out into the open. Like I mean, I see a lot
Dear
of,
openness.
No, they literally just say like an example I've seen because I see a lot of these online is like money come into my bank account now, money come into my bank. Like literally, that's what they do.
I mean, that's kind
I
of
would
weird.
love for that to work.
You know it.
It makes me think of, you remember the movie Neverending Story? You guys probably know.
Oh,
about
yeah.
Oh, that gave me nightmares. That was a never-ending story because I still have nightmares about it.
that. Oh, Falcor. I love that guy. But the big scary thing was the nothing.
Right.
So it's like the young people are talking to the nothing. Maybe they're talking to Falcor. I don't know. He's not real.
No. Neither is Atreyu.
Atreyu, run! What a great movie. Okay. I wanted to be that kid so bad. Anyway, I bring that up because my daughter, I had this perception too, right? So my daughter's at boot camp. They have church or chores basically at the base. So people make
Go to
chores.
church.
She said 10 people went forward to get saved this last Sunday at her base. And it knocks my socks off. But she talks about how much spiritual conversation there is happening and how much openness there is to it. And now that I'm looking at new research from Barna, it's making a little bit more sense. There's a huge amount of openness, not just to spiritual things, but to Jesus. Check this out. Data from Barna shows that 77% of teens, 77%, more than 3/4, are at least motivated to learn about Jesus, with 52% saying they're very motivated and 25% saying somewhat motivated.
That's excellent news.
Yeah, like somewhat shocking. Like, ooh, yeah, Jesus, I'd love to learn about that. 52% of teens are like, yeah, great, let's talk. So Daria's over there probably like, there's old people. Of course that's true.
I mean,
I don't know why you sound like a pirate like that, but
I don't know. Despite perceptions, I do think a tide has turned in recent years. I'm actually noticing more older atheists than younger people that say I want nothing to do with Jesus. I see a lot of younger millennials and some Gen Z that are talking about the gospel or at least open to it. Where I see people openly hostile to the gospel tends to be people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s.
What do you guys make of that? Why would that be?
I think the younger generation is open to other people having beliefs. And so if they're open that a lot of people have a lot of beliefs, I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to be empathetic and listen to you and hear what you believe, and I'm not going to be mean to you about it.
So does that make the information less encouraging then?
What information?
The idea that 77% are at least motivated to learn about Jesus? You
No.
might be like, well, because they're just as motivated to learn about Ouija boards.
Yeah, they probably are.
Oh,
But I don't-
see, that makes me a little sad. Though.
Why?
I was
It
like,
shouldn't. Because
I'm
they're
so excited about the Jesus part.
Well, they are searching for something. They don't know what it is yet, but they're at least willing to acknowledge that there's something missing and that there's the potential for something out there that they don't understand yet.
And so us knowing that clearly the more, the actual good news and the actual truth would be an option to explore. That is, I don't have to be too discouraged by just, we're open to all things spiritual.
Yeah.
Where's the crystal ball?
Yeah, the story of Jesus is compelling enough. You don't have to add anything to it to make them believe it.
That's right. This is why the gospel is such great news.
Yeah.
And so, okay. I was hoping it was more like, hey, forget all that spiritual stuff. Jesus, cool.
No, they're into all of it, and many of them haven't landed on anything yet.
The story of Jesus is much more compelling than a magic 8-ball and a Ouija board.
Yeah, and this
or tarot cards. So if we do our job to share the gospel, people will be saved.
Or manifestation, how's that working out for you?
Yeah. I mean, that's honestly one of the dumbest things I've heard in a long time. There's a lot of religions out there and like belief systems that are not dumb. I think they're wrong, but there's at least some measure of something to it. But the whole like nothing exists, but I'm speaking truth into existence out into the ether on my own.
Well,
what?
We talk about self-talk, and oftentimes we're saying it in a positive way. I can do this. I'm good enough. I'm
smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me.
Exactly.
Stuart Smalley, SNL.
That is manifestation in a low level. And then they just amp it up and say, well, if that works, why not money come into my wallet?
I'm sorry.
I like that one.
Less than 20% of teens said they're unmotivated to learn about Jesus. 7% are unsure.
So that's how we were before we came to know Christ. This is interesting. I see it's made a difference in your life. I'd like to know more. But you also were curious about the 8-ball or the Ouija board or, perhaps Islam or Confucianism or something.
So, Ron, you're the older among us.
Yes, by a long shot.
How do you feel about these stats now that you know that there are also people manifesting out there? They're being like Jesus and manifesting.
I am encouraged.
You are?
Yeah, that there is any interest in Jesus is something we can work with.
Yeah, spiritual openness, I think, is a dramatic shift from a long period of time of like ardent atheists.
Yeah.
Just being skeptical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like people going, spiritual things are wrong and I'm not interested at all in them. There was a long period of time where that ruled the day, Ron, don't you think?
Yes. And the church, we fed into it because we didn't live like we said we lived. We didn't live like Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. No, I'm going to put up a fence. I am going to make sure if their dog barks too long, I'm going to call the police on them. There's so many things that we do that are not the way Jesus wants us to live, let alone the major scandals that go on.
So imagine what we could accomplish today for the kingdom with young people if we actually took Jesus seriously.
Wow, you should write a book like that.
Yeah, like what if Jesus was serious? Guy Gittani. Oh, that's right. It is a Moody Publishers book. But yeah, I mean, if we actually lived out our faith the way we're called to, and it's not hard to understand. If you just spent time this year reading through the Beatitudes, and we all lived like that, you could see a revival like our friend Gail Reese was praying for.
Amen.
May it be so, Lord. 832 WCRF.
Prayer. It's conversation between you and God. It's not a last resort. It's a first line of defense. Prayer is one of the most important actions we can take to end abortion and support the women and men on the front lines of helping people choose life. Not sure how to pray about the abortion issue? CareNet's free devotional series, 365 Days of Pro-Abundant Life, shares stories from the front lines of CareNet's pro-life ministry and guides you in daily prayer for those who are at risk for choosing abortion. Every day in your inbox, you'll discover inspiring, true stories of how God is saving unborn lives and giving abundant life to families. And you'll be a part of a special community of believers who are reading and praying along with you. Discover hope, deepen your faith, and become a champion of life. Access your free devotional, 365 Days of Pro-Abundant Life at care-net.org/Moody. care-net.org/Moody.
Good morning, Cleveland. Thanks for choosing us to help you start your day. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3.
8:36 WCRF. I can't even believe it, but a week from Saturday, we're all going to be hanging out, or at least the cool people, at Canton Baptist Temple for the Walkworthy Men's Conference. Oh, why are you rolling your eyes, Lauren? Because you won't be there?
Yeah.
There'll be one cool person not there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
She has a good excuse.
I'm looking forward to actually being able to sit in the green room and have occasional conversations with Rodney Maiden or Paul Cannings or Pastor Frazier. It's so personal. I mean, I see them on stage like everyone else, and that's great. They're presenting their message, but then actually to shake their hand and talk about, whatever, how they are doing in their life with their kids, grandkids, all those things that are just kind of personalizing the pastor.
Well, and then I also like, Ron, every year we hear about a long list of men whose lives like literally shift directions because of Walkworthy.
Yeah.
I remember there was a couple years ago, there was a guy who he just felt compelled to break a chain in his life, and it was that he was living with his girlfriend. And Dr. Job called out people in that circumstance and said, listen, if that's you, you need to get married. That's what you need to do. So the guy got married.
Yep.
And he found me the next year. He's like, hey, just want you to know, I listened last year.
Stop
God did something. Yeah, we got married. It's like, way to go, dude. You did it. People every year are motivated to follow Jesus more deeply. For you, it might not be something that dramatic, but it could be a compelling shift in how your marriage relationship is moving, and or your work, your attitude at work, whatever it might be. So please join us for the big event. Tickets are going very quickly. It could sell out. Lauren will not let me promise that it probably will.
Because then people are like, well, I just won't get any tickets.
But tickets are going quickly still?
Yeah.
So would you like to join us? Before it's too late, text the word WALK to 440-546-2255.
It's great to be there in person, but if you've got a group of guys and it's a bit of a drive from your church to Canton Baptist Temple, buy a site license where you can meet together in your church, or maybe you'll rent out a facility at a restaurant or someplace preferably with unlimited refills on coffee, and you can just be there watching and paying attention to the seminar. Maybe you've got a disability and it's hard to get out of your house, and then the trip down there and you don't know about how well accessible Canton Baptist Temple is, and it's very accessible, but you might prefer to just stay at home. You can get an individual license to watch it from home. So there's plenty of ways to get involved.
Once again, go to moodyconferences.com or just text the word WALK to 440-546-2255. You guys ever run into somebody who you're like, hey, how you doing? And they launch into like a 5-minute speech about their job?
Yes.
What does that sound like in your end?
Like if I were to answer that question?
No.
Oh,
Because
I was like, well, Brian.
This guy, Brian, drives me crazy every day. But I mean, right, they're like, I just got this project, I'm really stressed out.
Yeah.
Like, they go on one of those things,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
As Relevant Magazine puts it in response, we get it. You have a job, it's consuming your soul. Congrats.
Or what do you do when you meet someone? The first thing you ask is, what do you do for work?
Yeah. I caught myself this last weekend. If you're just tuning in, I took my daughter to experience Moody. Ended up having dinner with a couple of strangers, which is not something I normally do, but they also had kids that were looking at Moody Bible Institute. I had to force myself to wait to ask somebody what they do.
Because you didn't want that to be the first thing that you ask?
Yeah, because it's not that important to me, although it's an easy conversation starter.
Yeah.
Right.
But I don't want to hang out with Christians like, hey, so what do you do, sir? By the way, it's super cool. The guy is like in masonry. He's like an artist.
Cool.
He's a stonemason. It was like, what? But yeah, I caught myself waiting to ask because that's all we talk about.
Yeah. And when someone asks me that, depending on how well I know them and where I want this relationship to go, I'll actually like kind of hide what I do a little bit, because a lot of times the entire conversation then becomes about my job, and I don't like that.
So psychoanalyze the person who does the 5-minute speech you didn't ask for about how stressed they are about their job.
Well, if your job is that stressful, maybe consider something a little less stressful. Let's start there.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Now, the writer in Relevant Magazine indicates it's possible that this person's job is slowly taking over their lives.
Oh, yeah.
Because we've talked before about the American dream. really, if you want to accomplish that, you better have straps on your boots. I haven't had boots like that in a long time, but you better have them. And you better start pulling on them. And you better start working hard, because that's how you're going to make it.
Yeah, I think that's a very easy trap to fall into, not just because of the American dream, but because we spend so much time at work. I mean, 8+ hours a day. Some of us probably see our coworkers more than our families.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. So somebody gave some advice on how you can reclaim your life from your job. And I think a lot of people could use some help with this. First one is reclaim your evenings like your life depends on it. But it does, as they wrote. So, like, stop checking email. Like, cut yourself off. Don't respond to your annoying coworkers' texts throughout the afternoon that have nothing to do with work. They're just saying friendly things, Lauren. But
are you giving me permission to stop texting you back?
No.
Lauren is not the one that starts those texts for the record.
No.
He said it.
Those aren't about work, though. It's different.
Yeah, exactly.
Coworkers can be friends, Ron. Ron and I send each other Facebook memes and stuff.
Very nice.
It's very fun.
Yeah, we do. Things the girls wouldn't appreciate.
Yeah, please keep it between the two of you.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of one right now.
I don't need anything else from you.
We can move on.
So how do people do this? Because so many folks, they just can't unplug from work. How do you reclaim your evening?
We've talked about this before. I think it's partially how you're raised. Like the older generations I don't think their parents meant for them to treat work as an idol, but kind of how they were brought up. Like you need to be the first one in, the last one to leave, and it's all about your success and, nose to the grindstone. Whereas I think the younger generations, I'm not saying we don't also fall into this maybe a bit of workaholism sometimes, but it's easier for us to separate things because we've drawn boundaries and said work is work and home life is home life.
Yeah, I left a previous job because it started to take over my evenings and my weekends.
Really?
Yeah, I'd get calls in the evenings, and that was kind of the nature of the job, but like I didn't want to do that anymore. I didn't want my evenings to be on work calls. I was like, I just did this all day with you. Can we not keep doing this? So I had to find a new job.
And this wasn't like, here's a funny picture.
No. It was like actual work business.
I was like, please don't leave.
No. It was like work
Brian's
business.
texting me too much. I'm quitting.
No, it's not that. That would be like if you were texting me and calling me in the evenings about the show.
Yeah, no, I'm not doing that.
No, you're not doing that. This was actual work stuff that they would be calling me about and texting me about. It's like, can I be done?
But you said it was expected part of the job? Or
No, it was just kind of the nature of the job that it doesn't ever stop. There was no closing time. It was not expectations of the job, though. That is not what I signed up for. And so I tried to find something new.
Yeah, and when I was going after it early in my career, I remember just working all the time, thinking about it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I got older that I couldn't keep up that pace anymore. And then I also realized how much I was missing.
Right.
And how often do you hear from especially men who are like, I regret not spending more time with my children.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
All of them say it.
On their deathbed, it's never, I wish I'd have worked a little longer.
Right. And yet you don't ever hear them saying, put your phone down and stop working in the evenings. No, we still hear people passing on that wisdom of be the first one there and the last one to leave. That's how you make it in life. Oh, yeah, by the way, I regret not seeing you. What's your name again? Son?
Yeah.
It's like Cats in the Cradle was that ridiculous song that doesn't ever end. But people love it, and it's sad.
It is.
And it's telling the story. It's 8:45. This is WCRF. When we come back from this break, we'll keep chatting because there's more advice from Relevant Magazine about how to build a life that's not about just your job.
Heritage Classical Academy is a classical Christian school with campuses in Peninsula and Pepper Pike. They offer preschool through 12th grade at their school in Northeast Ohio. Learn how Heritage partners with families to prepare our children to winsomely engage the world for the cause of Christ as we cultivate wisdom, virtue, and Christ-likeness. Visit our website to register for preview days on February 27, March 4, or March 6, or sign up for an individual tour at heritageclassicalacademy.org.
Hey there, I'm Brant Hansen, and they call this the best kept secret in the world, and it needs to not be a secret anymore. It's the work of Cure International Children's Hospitals 8 top-notch surgical hospitals healing kids in the name of Jesus. And this is the best part, openly, brilliantly sharing the gospel with the kids and their families as they heal. 18,000 surgeries last year, 40,000 plus people making decisions for Christ. This should not be a secret. Check it out for yourself. You'll see what I mean. Cure.org/Moody, cure.org/Moody.
Today, there is a disciple-making church planting movement that's taken root in 40 countries around the world. It's called the Timothy Initiative, and its mission is to see a healthy church planted in every village, everywhere. Since 2007, over 200,000 churches have been planted through the work of the Timothy Initiative, but there's more work to be done. Take your place in the Timothy Initiative. Go to ttiglobal.org.
They say family knows you best. Here's Brian's older brother with a message for you.
My annoying little brother talked way too much growing up. Now you get to listen to him instead of me.
It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio, Cleveland.
Stand tall and strong, men united where faith belongs. Embrace your calling, hear God's voice. In Christ, make your heart rejoice.
Walk worthy brothers hand in hand, courage rising across the land. One day, one purpose, one mighty call. Together we'll answer, standing tall.
Set up your calendar for Walk Worthy, our annual men's conference on March 1st. We hope to see you again at Canton Baptist Temple. Register at moodyconferences.com.
Walk worthy, stand tall and strong, men united where faith belongs. Embrace your calling, hear God's voice. In Christ, make your heart rejoice. Walk worthy brothers hand in hand, courage rising across the land. One day, one purpose, one mighty call. Together we'll answer, standing tall. Walk worthy, stand tall and strong, men united where faith belongs. Embrace your calling, hear God's voice. In Christ, make your heart rejoice. Walk worthy brothers hand in hand, courage rising across the land. One day, one purpose, one mighty call. Together we'll answer, standing tall. Walk worthy brothers hand in hand, courage rising across the land. One day, one purpose, one mighty call. Together we'll answer, standing tall.
8:48, loving God with our hearts and our minds. It's Mornings with Brian, live from the North Coast Family Foundation sponsored studios on Moody Radio Cleveland. And I'm glad to be back here after a couple of days off, thanks to the whole team. Do get your Walk Worthy Men's Conference tickets. Go to moodyconferences.com or text the word WALK to 440-546-2255. The big event is a week from Saturday at Canton Baptist Temple. Be there or be L7.
I will be L7, but the rest of you won't.
Yeah, we'll miss you, Lauren.
That's okay. Thank you.
We did have an
I won't
interesting
miss you.
question about work. We've been talking about work and how to not let it rule your life.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to know about Ron?
What's Ron's story? How long has he been in radio?
Well, gather around, children, and let me tell you the tale.
Weren't you friends with that guy Marconi?
Yeah.
That invented the radio?
And before that, we just had tin cans connected by string. I got into radio in college. I had gone to be a civil engineer, and I had no real reason to do that other than my dad owned an excavating company. And I figured excavating kind of falls in that category, so I'd have a little bit of a head start. But I get there, and a friend of mine said, hey, you want to help me do the noon newscast at the radio station? I was like, yeah, sure, sounds like fun. But when I got in there, it was so cool. Just looking around at the equipment and the idea that you could be doing this, for me, all alone, you know, that you're a DJ in a dark room by yourself playing music. Great, you know, an introvert's dream. So I changed my major to communications and took a bunch of radio classes and theater classes and other stuff. And then, you know, did radio for a while. I was really segregated in that I wanted Christian radio. I didn't want to be in secular radio because a lot of the secular music that I'd grown up with didn't agree with my Christian principles, and I didn't want to be forced to play that. And so I stuck with Christian. And because at that time there were few Christian stations, and even fewer that played any significant amount of money of music. Yeah, so I would be in and out of radio. I'd do something else for a year and then find another station, and then I'd do something for a couple years and find another station. So yeah, on and off, I've been in radio since I graduated college in 1983.
Have you struggled with the work-life balance before?
I didn't realize it, but I think when I was in the excavating business that I struggled with it, because, we would get to work, try to be there around 6, to find out where you were going to work. Then you start the job at 7:30 and you work 8 hours, you work 10 hours, if you're really close to getting a job done and the extra hour or two you stay could make the difference, you can seal it up and be done and the boss can bill it, you might work 12 hours. Or if rain's coming and you got to finish the job while you can, because once it rains, it's going to mess up a lot of what you can do. So, yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing all that. It doesn't sound to me, though, like you ever were laying awake at night thinking about the next day's broadcast.
No, especially when you're doing radio, music radio. Your broadcast, it's going to be the songs that,
yeah.
Whether the old days you got to pick them and the later days they were already picked for you and you just spoke in between them.
Yeah, the hardest era for me, I struggled big time with work-life balance. The hardest one for me was when I was the breadwinner of our family. Young family, 3 kids, then, well, actually, Sarah started staying home after we had our first kid, but it got more intense. And by the time I was in Chicago, I was like, if this thing fails, like if I don't succeed, we're going hungry.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was difficult for me to unplug. I felt like I had to be the highest performer or it's going to ruin my family. And I don't know if you ever had that experience, but maybe it's an excuse, but the pressure of it was almost too much for me. And finally, there was a point where one of my kids had a medical issue. We didn't have a choice anymore. We couldn't make it. So Sarah went back to work, and I felt less pressure ever since. Like we won't be destitute if
right.
We'll just, have to move probably, I guess, is one of them. But that was a big challenge for me. And I don't know how to overcome that for somebody because it's really stressful. I mean, think about the single parent. They're like work-life balance. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
I don't have a choice.
I'm doing everything all the time.
But there are some tips for those of us to have better balance. For a Christ follower, one of the bigger challenges is where you find your identity. And when you see people who lose a job that they made their identity, their whole life falls apart. Who am I now that I'm not fill in the blank? And it's really hard in our business for that. Because in many ways, you're defined by others as well, by what you do for a living.
Right.
But it's so important for all of us to make sure that our identity is not our job title. Like, if someone says, "Tell me about yourself," and your first thing is, "Well, I'm an engineer," and I ask you, "What's it like driving trains?" And then you get annoyed with me when I say that. But it's hard to break that. I mean, how do you guys answer that?
Tell me about yourself.
Yeah.
I would probably start with that I'm a mom.
What about radio star? You don't
No.
start there?
Mm-mm.
It's a tough one to walk down that road. And even for the Christ follower, it's hard to grasp the idea that our identity ought to be in Christ. Because I think for a lot of people, that's like you just go, what? I don't even know what that means.
I think it's a daily discipline. I mean,
Yeah.
I know Lauren loves her kids, but she also shouldn't wrap up her identity in being a mom because that is not who God says she is.
That's a tough one for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
Because their first answer is, well, I'm a wife and I'm a husband. And I'm not a husband, wife and a mom, or I'm a father and a husband.
Yeah.
That's not your identity as a Christ follower. It is a little weird though, right? If like some regular person asks you and you're like, well, my identity is in Jesus Christ.
Right. You try to reach out with something that they would understand. So you're building that bridge and starting with Jesus while that may be the most important thing, that may not be the most universally understood thing. So you start with wife and mother or husband and father, and, oh, okay, me too. Tell me about your kids, blah, blah, blah. Each another step on that bridge you're building.
Yeah.
And oftentimes then you find something that they say that is like, oh, you sound like a person of faith. Yes, I do. I believe in Jesus. Oh, okay, so do I.
Well, and the family answer is seismically better than work. If your first go-to answer to tell me about yourself is your job, then you'd have some adjusting to do, I think. Another tip from Relevant Magazine on how to not make your job what your life is all about. Stop wearing busyness like a badge of honor. Why are you laughing?
I mean, we are just such a hustle culture in America. We look down our noses at people that have any time to themselves. Like, what are you doing? Like, get ahead. Like, quit being lazy. I mean, even back in college, I mean, we would compare how little sleep we got. And if you're the one that got more than 5 hours and you're a loser that's not trying hard enough.
Or you don't have enough social activities.
Yeah.
Wow. I was a super loser. I loved sleeping.
Me too.
I mean, in college, I had a 6 a.m. radio shift. So I got sleep, and everyone's like, what are you doing? I'm like, surviving.
Like, it's Friday night, Daria, 6 p.m. Let's go. No, I have to go to bed.
Yeah, that's it. No, I was that person. I would
Me
tell,
too. I'm making
I would
a
tell all
funny
my
voice,
roommates, hey, it's 9 p.m. I'm going to bed. Please keep it down.
Oh, yeah. I was sleeping.
But I think American culture makes you feel like you need to be busy to, how you doing? Oh, I'm real busy. You know, the kids, this and that. I say that all the time. How you doing, Brian? Overwhelmed and busy. I can't slow it down. I've been trying. It's hard. It's my fault for having 5 kids, I guess.
Yeah, keep sending them off to the army or
get out of
college.
here.
And it'll slow down.
Can't wait until someone asks, how you doing, Brian? I don't know. I'm a little bored.
If you say, like, life is good right now, like, that's just not a conversation that I just feel like we can't say that. Like, so like, how are you? Like, how are things going? Like, oh, things are fine. Like, you know, not a whole lot going on. We're okay. Like, I feel like that's not anything that we can say. You have to find, oh, I'm busy, or this thing went wrong, or I don't know.
Is this why men end up in dead-end conversations with strangers? It's like, hey, how you doing? Pretty good. How about you? Good. All right. Well, the Browns are terrible, huh? Yeah. All right.
Bye.
See ya.
That's it. You guys talked about that Friday, didn't you? Something like that?
What?
That men need a topic?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We talked about it with Daria because she said she was just having friends over. And Jimmy said, well, what are your plans? Like, what are you doing? And she said, just chatting. And he said, what do you mean?
It's like, what are you doing? Just chatting. And then I was talking with the husband of one of my friends. He came up to us at church yesterday. Says, yeah, I was talking to her about what you guys did. And she's like, oh, we just talked. He's like, what do you mean? What about? Oh, we just talked. Like, and they were just commiserating about they just don't understand what their wives did all Saturday morning.
That's great. So other things you can do to help make sure your work is not the center of your life is put rest on your to-do list and don't feel guilty about it. Actually have friends, see them in person. Do things that have no purpose other than it brings you joy.
That's good.
And detach your worth from your work. Also, something to think about as we all endeavor to grow closer to Jesus. But hey, that's it for us today. That wraps up today's edition of the show. We're back tomorrow, all of us, actually. 2 days in a row, the whole team's together.
I think we'll be here all week.
It's a Christmas miracle. All of us all week?
I think so.
A President's Day miracle.